Food idioms. Idioms activation pack from British. Printed book. A printed copy of the book, Food Idioms, is available from British.com and Amazon. Just search Amazon for the author name R.I. Chalmers, the creator of British.com. The book contains all the idioms in this video English lesson, along with 21 crossword puzzles to help you learn the vocabulary. Activation pack. The full content of this video, plus hundreds of interactive exercises, is available in an idioms activation pack exclusively in the British Library. You can pay what you want for full, unrestricted access to the British Library. Get your British Library membership today at British.com and improve your English faster than you ever thought possible. Bakery idioms. Best thing since sliced bread. A new invention that saves time and effort is sometimes referred to as the best thing since sliced bread. I used to have to do my research at the library, but nowadays I can use the internet. As far as I'm concerned, the internet is the best thing since sliced bread. I don't have a smartphone, as I think they are too intrusive and take over people's lives. Perhaps I'm a little old-fashioned, because everyone else seems to think that they are the best thing since sliced bread. Notes: before the days of sliced bread, bread came in the form of uncut loaves and had to be cut by hand with a knife. If you've ever tried cutting a loaf of bread with a knife, you'll know that it can be quite difficult to cut regular slices. When ready sliced bread became available, the tedious task of cutting bread by hand was, for many, a thing of the past. Many people thought that sliced bread was a wonderful invention. Bread and butter. The work or activity that you do on a daily basis to earn your regular income is known as your bread and butter. Teaching students online through Skype is my bread and butter. I am keen as mustard about writing and hope that my books will eventually become my bread and butter. Notes: this idiom comes from the fact that our basic income buys our necessities, such as bread and butter. Break bread. To break bread with someone is to have a meal with them, over which you can talk and discuss any differences you may have. I've always found that the best way to resolve conflicts is to get others to sit down with you and break bread. If people would only break bread together more often, there would be far less violence in the world. Notes: break bread comes from references in the New Testament, and it is a rather formal idiom. Crackers. Someone who is insane, or behaving in a crazy manner, or something which seems to be a crazy idea or situation, is crackers. I thought I was going crackers until I realized that she was a twin, and I had been speaking to her twin sister by mistake. My grandmother would have thought the idea of driverless cars was completely crackers. Notes: a cracker is a type of dry bread biscuit, often served with cheese. Crumpet. A person who is sexually attractive can be referred to as a bit of crumpet. Who is that actress who always plays the role of very intelligent women, and that most consider to be the thinking man's crumpet? I didn't know whether to be flattered or offended when he introduced me as his bit of crumpet. Notes: a crumpet is a type of soft cake made with flour and yeast, generally toasted, and spread with butter. Crusty. An elderly person who is not afraid to say what they mean in a rude or harsh manner is crusty. How can you stand to be the secretary for that crusty old sod? It must be a nightmare working in his office. One of the advantages of getting old is that you can become a crusty old man and get away with telling people exactly what you think of them without fear of them beating you up. Earn crust. To earn a crust is to earn enough money to live on by whatever means you can. I have done a lot of jobs in my time to earn an honest crust. Unless you belong to the upper crust and have a private income, you need a job to earn a crust. See also, bring home the bacon, bread and butter. Upper crust. The highest social class, the upper class, are often referred to as being upper crust. Cultivating a posh accent is not going to convince anybody that you are part of the upper crust if you don't have any money. Had it not been for the Japanese invasion of Singapore, I would have been born with a silver spoon in my mouth, as my family were part of the upper crust back then. See also, silver spoon in mouth. Bun in the oven. A woman who is pregnant is said to have a bun in the oven. A little bird told me that Jane's got a bun in the oven. I've put on a lot of weight over the past few months and people are beginning to think I've got a bun in the oven. Notes: a bun in the oven is cooking and will soon be ready to remove and eat. This is where this humorous idiom comes from. Piffy on a rock bun. Someone or something what is very noticeable and conspicuous but is nevertheless excluded from an activity or from a group is like piffy on a rock bun. Having plucked up the courage to go to the party, I was left sitting on my own like piffy on a rock bun. Have you even seen those meetings, where the big cheeses sit around the table while the small fry sit behind them like piffy on a rock bun? Notes: in the UK, a rock bun is a hard bun like a scone with currants. What piffy is, nobody seems to know. Easy as pie. When something is very easy, takes very little effort, and is even pleasurable, it's as easy as pie. When you can sit back and dictate to your computer, without having to type on the keyboard, writing a book is as easy as pie. How did you manage to hit the gatepost? The gap is so wide that it is as easy as pie to get a car in the driveway. Notes: this idiom comes not from the making of a pie, but the ease of eating one. Finger in the pie. If you have your finger in the pie, then you have some active involvement in something. I'm afraid I don't have any say in the matter, as I don't have a finger in the pie. I know you want to have a finger in the pie, but I'm afraid you're just not qualified enough. See also, finger in too many pies. Finger in too many pies. Someone who is involved in so many tasks or activities that they can do none of them particularly well, has their finger in too many pies. You never actually get anything finished because you have your finger in too many pies. I used to have my finger in too many pies, but I realized that it was more important to concentrate on one thing at a time. See also, finger in the pie. Humble pie. When you have been compelled to admit that you are wrong about something, and have had to apologize, you have had to eat humble pie. He thinks he's so clever, but I'm sure that in the near future he'll be eating humble pie. I loved it when the Prime Minister was forced to eat humble pie because of the numerous mistakes she made during the campaign. Notes: in American English, they have similar idioms: eat crow, eat dirt. Nice as pie. A person who is engagingly pleasant and friendly, especially when you felt that they wouldn't be, is as nice as pie to you. I'll never forget when my boss called me into the office and I felt he was going to sack me, but instead, he was as nice as pie. With all his tattoos, he looks as though he might be someone you wouldn't want to meet on a dark night, but he's actually as nice as pie. See also, butter up. Pie in the sky. A good idea which is unlikely to be realized is, like an impossible dream or an empty promise, pie in the sky. I had a friend once who always dreamt of having a small cottage in France, but as he talked about his dreams, I could tell they were pie in the sky. In a year's time, I'll be running my own business empire, and I can assure you that this is not pie in the sky. Notes: this idiom comes from 1911, from a union song of the International Workers of the World which went, "Work and pray, live on hay, you'll get pie in the sky when you die." This referred to the promise of a reward after death, at the end of a long working life. Knuckle sandwich. To threaten to punch someone in the mouth with your fist is to threaten them with a knuckle sandwich. If you don't get out of my face, I'm going to give you a knuckle sandwich. The only time I was assaulted as a police officer was when a 5-year-old gypsy girl gave me a knuckle sandwich. Warm as toast. When it's cold outside, you are comfortably warm within your house, or are well wrapped up against the elements, you might say that you are as warm as toast. You look like you're freezing. You should have brought a coat like I did. I'm as warm as toast. I lived in a 300-year-old house in England where, in winter, I wasn't so much warm as toast as cold as ice. Notes: this idiom originated in England in the 15th century as hot as toast, but by the early 19th century it had become, as warm as toast. This may be because the English serve their toast in toast racks which ensure that it gets cold very quickly. Dairy idioms. Butter up. If you flatter someone, or are especially nice to them, with the aim of getting them to do what you want them to do, or to give their support to you, you are buttering them up. You can butter me up all you like, but I'm not going to lend you the money for your car insurance. You can't run a car on a shoestring. She's been buttering up the boss for weeks now in the hope that she will be considered for the position of area manager. See also, sweet talk. Butter wouldn't melt in mouth. To say that butter would not melt in somebody's mouth is to say that they appear to be very well behaved and look as if they would never do anything wrong or untoward, when the opposite is true. Don't you let her angelic features fool you. She may look as if butter would not melt in her mouth, but her teacher is off work with stress because of her behavior in class. Julie dispatched her boyfriend, his friends, and what remained of the alcohol, out of the back door as soon as she heard her parents' car pull into the drive. When they came through the front door, she stood there smiling and looking as if butter would not melt in her mouth. Notes: this idiom originally came from the idea that some people appear to be so cool and unexcitable that they don't even generate enough heat to melt butter. Butterfingers. A person who often drops things, is generally clumsy, or fails to keep hold of something so that it falls and breaks, is described as butterfingers. You're such a butterfingers today. That's the third glass you've broken, and it's only 9 o'clock. As the Ming vase shattered into a million pieces, I thought that calling the curator Butterfingers would just be rubbing salt in the wound.
Notes: cover your fingers in butter and you will find it difficult to keep hold of anything.
Know which side your bread is buttered. If you know which side your bread is buttered, you understand what is important for you, and what you need to protect to ensure your happiness and well-being. I had a friend who would do anything that his elderly and demanding aunts asked of him, because they were rich and would eventually leave him a substantial legacy.
He certainly knew which side his bread was buttered. You will support your family in this matter, if you know what side your bread is buttered. Notes: buttered bread tastes a lot better than unbuttered bread.
Like a knife through butter. Something which is achieved easily and with very little effort is done like a knife through butter.
These laser cutting tools are amazing. They can cut through an inch of steel like a knife through butter.
The car must have been traveling at excessive speed when it crashed.
It went through the wall like a knife through butter.
Notes: this idiom is also used in the form of, like a hot knife through butter.
Chalk and cheese. To say that two people are like chalk and cheese is to say that they could not be more different from one another.
Though only 18 months separates us, my brother and I are like chalk and cheese. Popular British television comedians are often double acts comprised of two comedians who tend to be like chalk and cheese.
See also, two peas in a pod.
Cheese off. To irritate someone to the point of anger is to cheese them off.
While I was writing this, the phone rang, and some cold caller tried to sell me something. Such interruptions really cheese me off.
I'm really cheesed off by the way the government demands that I pay my taxes on time, but it takes months to pay me my tax rebate. See also, make blood boil. Cheesy. Something that is not of genuine or expected quality or is generally inferior in many ways to what is expected, including being tacky or trite, is cheesy. If I ever revisit those old sci-fi programs that I used to love as a kid, I realize just how cheesy the sets and costumes were. You're not going to see any supermodels flashing cheesy grins on the catwalk. Notes: this negatively charged idiom has its origins in the false smile that photographers try to elicit from their subject when they ask them to say cheese. Hard cheese. If you have no choice but to accept something as it is despite not liking it, and nobody really cares about how you feel, you are likely to be told that it's hard cheese. If you want to live on a farm, you have to expect to be woken up early in the morning by the cockerels, so hard cheese. You joined the army, and the army fights wars, so it's hard cheese that you're going to have to fight.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, tough cheese.
The big cheese. The big cheese is a person who is influential, important, the leader of a group, or the person in charge. Michael always thought of himself as the big cheese, even though he was only nominally in charge of a handful of people.
I would not get comfortable, if I were you. The big cheese wants to see you in his office right away.
Notes: it is possible that this idiom has its origins in a big cheese that was presented to an American president. Other cheese manufacturers then began presenting other famous and influential people with big examples of their wares as a way of getting publicity.
Think moon made of green cheese. Somebody who thinks that the moon is made of green cheese is very gullible and will believe anything, no matter how outlandish.
So, you honestly believe that the food companies have people's best interests at heart?
You probably also think that the moon is made of green cheese. Anybody who really believes they have a chance of winning the lottery probably also believes that the moon is made of green cheese.
Notes: this idiom dates from at least the early 17th century. The green in the idiom comes not from the color but from its meaning as unripe. Cat that got the cream. Somebody who looks like the cat that got the cream has a very self-satisfied look on their face from having obtained or achieved something of considerable value or worth.
He walked out of the interview looking like the cat that got the cream, and I knew he must have got the job. You look like the cat that got the cream, so I imagine she agreed to your proposal.
Notes: a cat that has literally eaten some cream is going to be one satisfied kitty. Cream of the crop. The cream of the crop is the best and most sought-after part of something. If you master English idioms, your teacher will consider you to be the cream of the crop as far as their students are concerned. I wouldn't say all of his paintings were masterpieces, but the 4 examples we have in the gallery are considered to be the cream of the crop. Notes: this idiom originally had the literal meaning of the best examples from a crop of fruit or vegetables. Crying over spilt milk. If you are full of regret because of something that has already happened and cannot be changed or rectified, you are crying over spilt milk. There's nothing you can do about it, so there's no point in crying over spilt milk, is there? Let others cry over spilt milk. I'm going to start over and see if I can't get it right the second time. Land of milk and honey. Any imaginary or unrealistic place which has bountiful amounts of everything that you could desire is known as a land of milk and honey. These thousands of migrants that are entering Europe every year seem to think that they are going to find a land of milk and honey. When I stepped off the plane in Seville, I had no illusions that I was stepping into a land of milk and honey, but life in Spain actually turned out to be even better. Notes: this idiom comes from the Bible, from where, in the Old Testament, God says he will lead the Israelites out of Egypt to a land flowing with milk and honey. Milk dry. To milk something or someone dry is to take all that is valuable, leaving only the valueless behind. I hate these TV series that go on far too long to milk an idea dry and which turn a good idea into a boring, repetitive program by the end of the series. When men get divorced, their biggest fear is that the court will give their ex-wives a license to milk them dry.
Notes: when you have taken all the milk that a cow can give, and have literally milked it dry, there is nothing left to take.
Milk for all it's worth. Milking something for all it's worth is taking the maximum advantage of a favorable situation for your own benefit for as long as possible. Did you see that model the other day who had had a brief affair with a footballer and is milking her sudden fame for all it's worth to advance her modeling career? Her boss let her stay off work with an upset tummy, and she decided to milk it for all it's worth by taking the entire week off. See also, milk dry, gravy train. Milk of human kindness. You can compliment someone's natural kindness, compassion, and benevolence by saying that they are full of the milk of human kindness.
People who are full of the milk of human kindness are easily taken advantage of, especially by those who lack the milk of human kindness.
A hard-nosed businessman is unlikely to be full of the milk of human kindness. Notes: this idiom comes from Shakespeare's Macbeth, "Yet do I fear thy nature, it is too full a milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way all." Eating and drinking idioms. Bite the hand that feeds. To show ingratitude, to be hurtful, or to criticize someone who has previously helped you or been kind to you is to bite the hand that feeds you. To say what you said in court despite all I've done for you over the last few years is to bite the hand that feeds you. To resign and start your own company after we paid for all your training is biting the hand that feeds you. Biting cold. When it is so cold that it is painfully cold, we say that it is biting cold. Thankfully, in the last 15 years, since moving to Spain, I have never once felt the biting cold of an English winter.
I don't know how the people of Siberia can tolerate the biting cold of a Siberian winter. Notes: we also hear of a biting wind.
Biting remarks. Things said to deliberately criticize someone or something in a very unkind way are known as biting remarks. I wished I hadn't shown her my new picture as she made some pretty biting remarks about it. Are you sure you needed to make such biting remarks about her new dress?
Notes: you may also hear the idiom, to have a biting wit. Bitter pill to swallow. Something unpleasant or distasteful that has to be accepted is a bitter pill to swallow.
Losing her job was a bitter pill to swallow, but it meant that she was able to look into new opportunities.
When a drink driver is sentenced to only 2 years in prison for killing someone that you love, it's a bitter pill to swallow. See also, sweeten the pill.
Bitter about. If you are angry about something or cannot forgive someone for something they have done to you, you are bitter about it.
I don't know why you're being so bitter about it, when the others ended up in a worse position than you.
I can fully understand why she's so bitter about the way they treated her, especially as they had told her for many months not to worry about it.
See also, bitter and twisted. Bitter and twisted. Somebody who carries with them anger and resentment for something that happened to them in the past is said to be bitter and twisted.
20 years of being passed over for promotion has left her bitter and twisted. Many of the things my ex-wife did could well have left me bitter and twisted, but I prefer to have a more positive and optimistic outlook on life. See also, bitter about.
Leave a bitter taste. When something unpleasant or unfair has happened to you, and you cannot forget it, it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth.
If the boss had spoken to me like that in the meeting, it would have left a bitter taste in my mouth, too. It was my idea completely, and the way he took full credit for it really left a bitter taste in my mouth. Notes: this idiom is also heard as, leave a bad taste in your mouth, or, leave a sour taste in your mouth. Till the bitter end. If you stick with something until it is completed, however unpleasant or difficult it may be, you do so till the bitter end. There were times when I felt like giving up while writing this book, but I knew I had to stick with it until the bitter end.
People may say bad things about him, but you know you can rely on him and that he'll be with you until the bitter end.
Notes: this is an old nautical expression which referred to the end of a rope, rather than to a bitter taste. Binge drinking. Binge drinking is the drinking of large amounts of alcohol in a very short space of time with the express purpose of getting drunk. Too many young people today are going on a binge every Friday night, binge drinking until they pass out in the street. I don't like going out with the girls anymore, as every night out turns into an excuse for binge drinking. See also, binge eating. Down the hatch. When you're about to drink something potent or distasteful, or when encouraging others to do so, you can give the toast, down the hatch.
Everybody, lift your glasses to the bride and groom. Down the hatch.
Come on, Johnny. If you're going to get better, you need to take this medicine, so, down the hatch. Notes: in this idiom, hatch is taken from the doors often found on the decks of ships. Binge eating. Binge eating is the consumption of huge amounts of food in a very short space of time because the eater cannot control their hunger, or greed. I've tried to diet, but as soon as I see chocolate, I start to binge eat it.
When it comes to seafood, I have to admit to being a bit of a binge eater. See also, binge drinking. Bolt down. When you bolt down your food, you are eating it very quickly, and neither savoring nor enjoying it. My daughter eats like a bird, while my son bolts his food down.
I'm very sorry to bolt down this delicious meal, but I'm going to be late for the meeting. Notes: as a phrasal verb, this idiom is separable, and a noun can go between bolt and down or after bolt down. Can't stomach. If you can't stomach something, you're not able to tolerate it, stand it, or abide it. I'm sorry, but I can't stomach those awful Hollywood romance movies. When I was a child, I once got sick eating chocolate ice cream, and I can't stomach the stuff now. Notes: alternative idioms are, can't bear, can't abide, can't stand.
Eat a horse. If you say you could eat a horse, you are exceedingly hungry. I hope dinner is ready, because I could eat a horse.
Hungry.
I could eat a horse. Notes: you would have to be extremely hungry to eat a whole horse.
Eat alive. To be utterly defeated or destroyed by someone who is stronger, more experienced, or more powerful than you, is to be eaten alive.
His inexperience became ever more apparent during his presentation, as did his mistakes, and the audience ate him alive.
The problem with being famous is that if you say the wrong thing or wear the wrong clothes, the press will eat you alive. See also, eat for breakfast. Eat dirt. When you have been shamed into admitting that you were wrong about something, and are humiliated, you're forced to eat dirt. I have been very careful to make sure that all of these idiom definitions and examples are correct, because I don't want to have to eat dirt. When I was a new and inexperienced policeman, I once gave out a whole street of parking tickets which my inspector made me cancel. He then made me go and apologize to each of the car owners in turn. Most were delighted to have a police officer eat dirt in front of them. See also, humble pie, eat your words.
Eat for breakfast. To eat someone or something for breakfast is to deal completely and easily with them or it. You wouldn't last one round in the ring with Tyson. He'd eat you for breakfast.
I wouldn't even bother asking her for a date, if I were you.
She eats men like you for breakfast.
See also, eat alive. Eat in. To eat in is to prepare your own food and eat it in the comfort of your own home rather than going out to a restaurant.
I'd really rather eat in tonight, if you don't mind. Just the two of us.
The problem with eating in is that you've got to go shopping for the ingredients, then do all the cooking, and then do the washing up.
See also, eat out.
Eat like a bird. Someone who eats sparingly or very little is said to eat like a bird.
It's no wonder you never put weight on if you only eat like a bird. I've never seen anyone so big eat like a bird.
Notes: a similar idiom is, pick at your food. Eat like a horse. Someone who eats ravenously, as if starving, and consumes large amounts of food, eats like a horse.
It's no wonder he's so fat, as he eats like a horse.
How do some people manage to eat like a horse but stay thin as a rake?
See also, eat like a bird.
Eat my hat. To demonstrate that you're absolutely certain that something will or will not happen or is not true, you can use the expression, I'll eat my hat. She's always late, and if she's not late for this meeting, I'll eat my hat. I'm 100% certain that we can rely on him, and if it turns out that we can't, I'll eat my hat.
Notes: the origin of this idiom lies in the fact that no one would really wish to eat their hat.
Eat out. To eat out is to eat in a restaurant, cafe, or bar, food that has been prepared for you, rather than eating at home. I agree with George Orwell, when he said that eating out is far inferior to preparing your own food at home. I used to eat out regularly, but these days I do so less than once a month.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is to dine out. See also, eat in.
Eat out of house and home. To eat someone out of house and home is to consume all of the available resources that a person has.
The pet shop lied to me and told me that it was a pygmy pig. It grew into a 15-stone monster which ate me out of house and home. Of course they ate you out of house and home.
What did you think would happen if you invited the whole football team to the barbecue? Eat out of hand. If you get someone to do exactly as you want or say, you have them eating out of your hand. As a beautiful blonde with sizable assets, she has little trouble in getting the press to eat out of her hand.
You may have a smile like Tom Cruise, but you're never going to get the boss eating out of your hand, I can promise you. She's a total witch.
Notes: animals you have tamed, or whose trust you have won, are willing to approach you closely enough to eat out of your hand. Eat your heart out. Eat your heart out is an idiom that says that you believe someone else will feel immense bitterness, regret, or jealousy because of something. It was great being featured on the news last night, especially as I knew all my old school friends who thought I'd never amount to anything would be eating their hearts out. I'm sure this book is going to be an overwhelming success. Eat your heart out, Hemingway.
Notes: the idiom "eat your heart out" is usually used ironically and humorously.
Eat your words. If you are forced to eat your words, you are forced to retract something you have said or humbly apologize for making a mistake. He told me that I didn't have a chance, but when I came in first, he had to eat his words.
Congratulations on your promotion.
This is one occasion on which I'm very happy to eat my words. See also, humble pie, eat dirt.
Gobble up. To completely devour something extremely quickly is to gobble it up.
I'm sorry to have to gobble up this wonderful dinner, but I'm afraid I'm going to miss the train. When I was a child, my favorite part of Little Red Riding Hood was where the wolf gobbled up the grandmother.
Notes: we can also say, gobble down.
Good enough to eat. Something or someone with great beauty or attractiveness is good enough to eat. I have to say, Lucy, that in that red dress you look good enough to eat. He certainly has green fingers, and his garden, filled to bursting with flowers, certainly looks good enough to eat. Make a meal of. To expend more time or energy on something than is normally required is to make a meal of it. There's no need to make a meal of it, all we need is a very quick email to outline the main points. I know you need to check your car before you take it on the road, but he always makes a meal of it and spends at least 20 minutes checking everything.
See also, in a nutshell.
Melt in mouth. Meat which is very tender, or food which is mouth-wateringly delicious, is said to melt in your mouth.
A good Iberian ham will quite literally melt in your mouth. He really knows how to age a steak and cook it so that it melts in your mouth.
On a diet. Somebody who is on a diet is trying to lose weight by being careful about what they eat. Some girls spend their entire lives on a diet, eating nothing but lettuce leaves.
I think it's safe to conclude from the size of him that he has never spent a minute of his life on a diet.
Sweet tooth. People who love and cannot get enough of sweet foods are said to have a sweet tooth.
The danger of having a sweet tooth is the amount of chocolate and cakes you eat, which can seriously impact your weight.
There probably isn't a child on the planet who doesn't have a sweet tooth and who would refuse a bag of sweets or a bar of chocolate. Notes: this idiom dates from the 14th century, long before sugar and chocolate became part of the Western diet.
Whet appetite. Something which arouses your interest and makes you eager to find out more about it whets your appetite.
When I got my first computer in the 1980s, it really whetted my appetite for the things that I knew would come technologically. I hope that this book whets your appetite for the other idiom books in this series.
Notes: whet means to sharpen, as in the use of a whetstone for sharpening a knife or other blade.
Wolf down. To eat something extremely quickly and completely, as a ravenous animal might, is to wolf it down. It's nice to see you've got an appetite, but it might be less alarming to the others at the table if you didn't wolf your food down. I've never seen anyone wolf down 3 cheeseburgers in under a minute, I have to say. See also, gobble up.
Go hungry. If you miss a meal, and cannot find an alternative source of food, you will be forced to go hungry.
When I was a child, I was so busy exploring the world that I often missed dinner and had to go hungry.
Dinner is at 6, and if you're not home by then, you will go hungry. See also, eat a horse.
Hunger for. When you hunger for something or someone, you have a great yearning or desire for it or them.
I have to say that in the 15 years of living in Spain I have never once hungered for an English winter. The way she looked at him told the world that she was hungering for his kisses. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, to yearn for.
Stay hungry. To stay hungry is to maintain your enthusiasm for, and determination to do even better at, something than you have succeeded at in the past, no matter how successful you may have been. There comes a time in every boxing career when the boxer is unable to stay hungry, having won all the available accolades. Great explorers, no matter how many new places they've discovered, stay hungry in their determination to unlock even more secrets of our world.
Notes: hunger is a great motivator.
Sweet taste of success. The rewards of success in a particular field are also referred to as the sweet taste of success. The first time I was published, seeing my words in print was for me the sweet taste of success.
There's nothing like the sweet taste of success to help you stay hungry and achieve even more.
Notes: this idiom is also used as, the sweet taste of victory.
An acquired taste. Something that you didn't perhaps like when you first tried it, but then began to like after having tried it a few more times, is described as an acquired taste.
It may be something of an acquired taste, but I have never been able to drink English beer.
I suppose many people would consider olives to be an acquired taste.
See also, taste for. Flavor of the month. Someone or something that is temporarily extremely popular can be referred to as the flavor of the month.
I'd stay out of her way today, if I were you. You're not exactly flavor of the month.
That silly little mobile phone game was flavor of the month for a while, but I don't see anybody playing it these days.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, flavor of the week.
In bad taste. Something which is likely to cause offense, is rude, or even obscene, is in bad taste. As soon as I saw the look on my grandmother's face, I realized that the joke I had just told was in bad taste. I can't believe that anyone would put a picture like that up on the wall.
It's in such bad taste. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, in poor taste. Leave a bad taste. Something which you always look back on as unpleasant or disagreeable, and which has left you with bad memories of it, leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
The way her best friend convinced her to divorce her husband and then married him herself left a bad taste in Susan's mouth. I have to say that the way she quibbled over a few pennies left a bad taste in my mouth.
Notes: to quibble is to argue over petty and inconsequential things.
See also, leave a bitter taste. Taste for. When you get a taste for something, you really enjoy it and will strive to repeat the experience.
Traveling around a lot as a child gave me a taste for adventure. Having had to eject from a crashing plane, unsurprisingly, the pilot did not get a taste for parachuting. See also, an acquired taste.
Unsavory character. A person who is disreputable, untrustworthy, or generally dislikable, is an unsavory character.
I think you should call the police. I've just seen a couple of unsavory characters climbing over the wall at the back of the factory.
He always reminded me of something straight out of a Dickens novel. A really unsavory character. Notes: savory means something that is very tasty and desirable, while unsavory means the opposite. Fish out of water. If you feel awkward or uncomfortable because of the situation you find yourself in, you are like a fish out of water. If I were to go back to the UK after this many years away, I'm sure I would feel like a fish out of water. Don't worry, it's quite natural to feel like a fish out of water in the first few weeks working here.
You'll soon get used to it.
Notes: this idiom is a metaphor that has been used in English for centuries.
In hot water. When you find yourself in a difficult situation and anticipate censure, you find yourself in hot water.
If you're late for another meeting, you will find yourself in hot water with the boss, I can assure you. Jason got himself into hot water when he sent an email meant for a coworker to everyone on his mailing list.
See also, in the soup.
In the drink. To fall in the drink is to fall into the ocean or other body of water. Imagine being a fighter pilot in the Second World War landing in the drink, hoping against hope that they would rescue you. The first and last time I was on a boat, I slipped on the wet deck and ended up in the drink. Water down. To weaken or dilute something so that it is less effective or forceful is to water it down. I'm rather afraid the boss is going to water down my report to the point where it won't change anything and will be stuck with the status quo. The minister decided to water down the proposal in the face of criticism from the opposition. Notes: dishonest bartenders would add water to their alcoholic drinks to dilute them, thus watering them down and making them less potent. Water off a duck's back. If somebody can take criticism or censure without it having any apparent effect on them, we say that it's like water off a duck's back.
You can complain about my driving as much as you want, but it's just water off a duck's back to me.
She's so thick-skinned that any criticism she receives from the press is like water off a duck's back to her. Notes: because a duck's feathers are waterproof, Any water splashed on them simply rolls off. Watering hole. A watering hole is a euphemism for a favorite pub where you can enjoy a few pints among friends. The Fox and Hounds is my favorite watering hole as they have a fantastic range of ciders from all over Britain.
Help prepare dinner? You must be kidding. He'll be down at the local watering hole and won't come home until dinner is just being served. See also, on the source.
Egg idioms. Bad egg. A bad egg is a person who is not dependable, but is dishonest, untrustworthy, and generally disagreeable. Even in primary school, the teachers could tell he was a bad egg.
I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
He's a bad egg. See also, good egg. Can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. To say that something important cannot be achieved without unpleasant side effects is to say that you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs.
If we're going to save the company, some of the staff are going to have to go. You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs.
I had to stop making my YouTube videos to concentrate on writing these idiom books.
There's no other way to do it, as you can't make an omelette without breaking eggs.
Curate's egg. Something which is pretty dire, but nevertheless has some small redeeming features, is a curate's egg. The curate, being presented with a boiled egg that was patently bad, commented to his host that some parts of it were very good.
He didn't wish to cause offense.
The Sagrada Familia in Barcelona is something of a curate's egg. Notes: this idiom originally appeared as a joke in an early edition of the humorous magazine Punch.
Egg on. If you egg someone on, you are encouraging them to do something that may be unwise or dangerous.
He would never even have tried the motorbike if you hadn't egged him on, and he wouldn't be in hospital now. Her friends had been egging her on to smoke a cigarette for weeks, but her grandmother had died of lung cancer and she had vowed never to smoke herself. Notes: interestingly, the egg in this idiom has nothing to do with chickens, and means, in the original Anglo-Saxon, to incite someone to do something. Egg on face. To have egg on your face is to be embarrassed or to look foolish in front of others.
I remember at school that there was nothing worse than someone pointing out to you that you had egg on your face. The realization that your flies were undone was mortifying.
I imagine all of those who supported the candidate had egg on their face when it was revealed that he was a serial sex offender.
Notes: there is debate as to the origin of this idiom.
It could come from having egg on your face after eating an egg without due decorum, or it could come from the fact that eggs were thrown at incompetent actors on the early stage. Egghead. A person who is extremely intelligent or very clever, particularly in the scientific matters, is known as an egghead. Einstein is one of the most famous eggheads of all time.
An egghead? You're kidding me. I'd be surprised if he can even fry an egg.
Notes: intelligent people are supposed to have larger heads with taller foreheads and thus have heads that look like eggs. Eggs in one basket. If you fail to make provision for disaster, and leave everything at the mercy of one incident, you are putting all your eggs in one basket. Despite being told not to put all my eggs in one basket, I invested all my money in a single company, which subsequently went bust.
I lost everything.
When I get my pension money, I will be opening several accounts with different banks, as I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket.
Notes: if you drop a basket containing all your eggs, the chances are they will all be broken.
Good egg. A good egg is a person who is dependable, honest, trustworthy, and generally agreeable.
I know you don't like him, but Joe is actually a good egg, and has a heart of gold.
Be a good egg and give me a lift to the station, will you? See also, bad egg. Kill the goose that lays the golden egg. If you deliberately destroy something which was providing you with an easy source of revenue, you have killed the goose that lays the golden egg. When his wife made him sell the language schools that he had built up over the previous 30 years, he knew he was killing the goose that laid the golden egg. He realized, too late, that in leaving the band just before it became super successful, he had effectively killed the goose that laid the golden egg. Notes: there is a fairy tale of a couple who came into possession of a goose which laid the golden egg. However, the goose laid only one egg every few days.
Anxious to get their hands on all the gold at once, the couple killed the goose. They found nothing inside but the squishy bits of the goose.
Nest egg. A nest egg is money you put aside for your future as a form of savings, particularly for your retirement.
If you want a comfortable retirement, you're going to need a sizable nest egg.
For many young people, putting aside money for a nest egg doesn't seem very important, but when they're older, they will wish they had. Notes: a nest egg is an artificial egg placed in a nest to encourage a bird to lay more eggs, a practice in use for hundreds of years.
Over-egg the pudding. To over-egg the pudding is to ruin what you are doing because you are trying too hard to make it better.
A lot of movies these days over-egg the pudding by using far too many special effects at the expense of characterization. If I added too much information about each idiom in this book, I would be in danger of over-egging the pudding.
Notes: if you put too many eggs in a pudding, you may well ruin it rather than making it better.
Rotten egg. A despicable person who is a bad influence on those around them and is a rotten egg. I always thought I could trust him, but he was a rotten egg. Convicted of 3 counts of theft of money from the charity where she worked, the mother of 3 was shown to be a rotten egg. See also, bad egg. Scrambled egg. Senior military officers wear caps, the peaks of which are decorated with gold embellishments known as scrambled egg, increasing in complexity the higher the rank.
When I was in the Royal Air Force, you could tell a senior officer from miles away simply from the scrambled egg on his hat.
I once picked up my commanding officer's hat by mistake, not noticing the scrambled egg on the peak, and was left with egg on my face. See also, big fish, big cheese. Sure as eggs is eggs. When you are 100% certain about something and that something cannot be disputed, it is as sure as eggs is eggs.
He was sure as eggs is eggs that his daughters would speak to him again once they learned of his substantial lottery win.
If you regularly feed the birds, and are patient, then sure as eggs is eggs, they will be eating out of your hand within a few weeks. Notes: note the use of is in this idiom rather than the grammatically correct are. Teach grandmother to suck eggs. If you try to teach your grandmother to suck eggs, you are trying to tell somebody how to do something that they've been able to do for a long time. I've been cycling since before you were born, so giving me cycling advice is like trying to teach your grandmother to suck eggs.
The stewardess told the old man not to be worried by the turbulence.
He pointed out to her that he had been a fighter pilot in the war and that she was trying to teach her grandmother to suck eggs. Notes: you can eat raw eggs by piercing both ends and sucking out the contents.
This is something that children would have been taught from an early age, so your grandmother would certainly know how to do it long before you learned to do it.
Tough egg to crack. A person who is hard to get to know or understand, or a situation that is difficult to deal with, is a tough egg to crack. Finding a way of telling him that his services are no longer required is going to be a tough egg to crack. The captain realized that the enemy positions which overlooked the landing grounds were going to be a tough egg to crack.
See also, tough nut to crack.
Walk on eggshells. To speak or act extremely carefully or diplomatically, with great consideration for another person so as to avoid offense is to walk on eggshells. The problem with moody teenagers is that you're always walking on eggshells lest they fly into a mood or become stroppy. As far as I can see, your ideas are the only way to save this company, but if you're going to convince the boss, you're going to have to walk on eggshells.
Notes: it takes immense care to walk on eggshells without breaking them. A variant of this idiom is, to tread on eggshells.
Fish idioms. Big fish. The most important or powerful person in a group, and the one usually having the most influence, is the big fish.
He would rather be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond. As it is, he's a tiny fish in a tiny pond.
In the world of drug dealers, the big fish never get caught, only the small fish. See also, small fry. Bigger fish to fry. When someone has more interesting or important things to be getting on with than that which they are currently engaged in, they can say they have bigger fish to fry. I'm afraid I can't meet you for coffee this morning, I've got bigger fish to fry. I know I said I would help you with your project, but I'm afraid I've got bigger fish to fry now. See also, small fry. Cold fish. A person who is reluctant to show emotion, and who people feel as unfriendly or lacks empathy, is a cold fish. I think we should take on the first candidate, the girl, but not that strange man with the blonde hair who came across as something of a cold fish. I have no idea why Jim married her, as she is such a cold fish while he's the life and soul of the party. See also, Ice Queen, queer fish. Different kettle of fish. A different kettle of fish is something which is completely different to that which you were talking about or considering. His first wife was a cold, loveless, and selfish woman, but his new wife is quite a different kettle of fish. Mass-produced English cider is quite disgusting, but our traditionally produced scrumpy is a different kettle of fish altogether. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, another kettle of fish. Drink like a fish. Someone who drinks like a fish consumes large amounts of alcohol without regard to the consequences. I know it's probably a stereotype, but in my personal experience, most Englishmen drink like a fish. When a Russian throws away the top of a vodka bottle saying that it won't be needed any longer, you know you're going to have to drink like a fish.
See also, on the sauce. Fine kettle of fish. A situation that is difficult to deal with and likely to prove troublesome is a fine kettle of fish. You filled your petrol car up with diesel. That's a fine kettle of fish.
The DJ forgot to bring his records to the party and the best we could do was to plug someone's mobile phone into the sound system.
What a fine kettle of fish.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, a pretty kettle of fish. Fish for compliments. If you're trying to get someone to pay you a compliment, especially by putting yourself down, you are fishing for compliments.
Yes, she mentioned going to the hairdresser 3 times over lunch. I guess she was fishing for compliments. She didn't get any.
When he drove up in a rather old BMW, and said that it was virtually a classic, everybody realized he was fishing for compliments.
See also, sweet talk.
Fishy. If you're very suspicious about someone or something, and you suspect that all is not as it should be or seems, you can say that it's fishy. This is the 3rd time this month that little Johnny has claimed that his dog ate his homework.
I'm beginning to find his excuses a little fishy.
The salesman told us a fishy story about how wonderfully careful the previous owner of the car had been. Notes: variants of this idiom are, smells fishy, and a bit fishy. Plenty of fish in sea. When we tell someone that there are plenty more fish in the sea, we are telling them that though they have just finished a relationship, there are many other people who will make a suitable partner for them.
As soon as I got divorced, I realized that there were plenty more fish in the sea, and I had no trouble finding romance.
Don't you think it's a little early to be telling Susan that there are plenty more fish in the sea when all she said is that she thinks her husband is having an affair? Queer fish. A person who many people consider to be unusual, strange, or somewhat aloof, is a queer fish. Our professor was a queer fish, always wearing sunglasses indoors, and never wearing a matching pair of socks.
If you think she's a queer fish, you should see the rest of them down in the IT department.
See also, cold fish.
Shooting fish in a barrel. Anything that is ludicrously simple to do is like shooting fish in a barrel.
I hesitate to say that it was like shooting fish in a barrel, but getting the committee to agree to my proposals was hardly difficult.
Once you have done a couple, repairing a puncture on a bicycle is like shooting fish in a barrel. Notes: fish swimming in a barrel of water would indeed be exceedingly easy to shoot.
Small fry. The least important, least powerful, and least influential people in a group are the small fry. Multinational corporations need to understand that it's the small fry who provide most of their business. Most small fry drug dealers don't even know who the big fish are, so the police don't bother arresting them.
Notes: fry are young fish.
See also, big fish, bigger fish to fry. Teach a man to fish. If you teach a man to fish, he can feed himself forever, and this idiom is used to point out the advantages of helping others to do things themselves rather than relying on others. If you're fed up with driving her to work every morning, why don't you help her get a driving license? You know, teach a man to fish and all that. Instead of hiring someone to design my website, I learned to build it myself from scratch, remembering that it was better to teach a man to fish. Notes: this idiom is from a proverb which says that if you give a man a fish, he can feed his family for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he can feed his family forever, or until there are no fish left. Red herring. We use a red herring to divert attention from the real issue at hand by introducing a misleading clue or erroneous piece of information. Agatha Christie was famous for introducing red herrings in her whodunit novels to throw the reader off the scent and increase the suspense. Politicians of all parties have been using fake news as red herrings to distract voters from difficult issues. Notes: a smoked, or red, herring is a little whiffy and could easily throw the hounds off the scent were it to be dragged across the trail. Packed like sardines. When a lot of people are very tightly crammed together in a very small space and have very little space in which to move, we say they are packed in like sardines. I used to teach in a private English academy where the students were packed into the classroom like sardines.
There wasn't room to swing a cat.
Whatever you do, never use the Tokyo Metro at rush hour, because they even have men employed as pushers to physically pack passengers into the carriages like sardines. Notes: sardines in tins are always packed very tightly together. Fruit and vegetable idioms. Apple of eye. The apple of your eye is a person who you love greatly, who you're very proud of, or you favor above all others.
It's quite obvious that her niece is the apple of her eye.
He was the apple of his father's eye.
Notes: the pupil of the eye was historically referred to as the apple.
Bad apple. A person who has an undesirable or negative influence on the group of people to which he belongs is a bad apple. To say her son is a bad apple is something of an understatement. As soon as he arrives in the classroom, the entire class becomes uncontrollable.
How he got the job as a teacher is beyond me. You'll always find a bad apple in any large organization, and it's up to the management to deal with them appropriately.
Notes: if one apple in storage becomes bad, it can affect all the apples around it. A variant of this idiom is a rotten apple. See also bad egg. Apples and oranges. Two things which are completely dissimilar are like apples and oranges and cannot reasonably be compared to one another.
You can't base your assessment of Jane on Sally's performance. They are apples and oranges. You can't say that bullfighters deserve their salaries, but footballers don't, because it's like comparing apples and oranges.
See also chalk and cheese. Banana republic. A country reliant on a very narrow economic base while weakened by endemic corruption and poor government is known as a banana republic.
Britain is in danger of becoming little more than a banana republic if it goes ahead with its plans for Brexit.
If the economy continues to stagnate, this country could end up as a banana republic. Notes: originally, A banana republic was so called because it was a state whose economy was entirely dependent on banana exports.
Such countries were generally in Central America. Banana oil. To tell someone things that are patently nonsense, ridiculous, or false, to flatter them, is to give them banana oil.
Stop feeding me banana oil, will you?
I know that I don't have a cat in hell's chance of getting the promotion.
If you think that banana oil is going to persuade me to let you take charge of the project, you can think again.
Notes: oil is not made from bananas.
Banana skin. Something someone does that results in an unexpected and embarrassing situation is known as a banana skin. Did you just fill your car's petrol tank with diesel instead of petrol?
That's a bit of a banana skin, isn't it?
When the software company released its latest update without checking for problems, it was a massive banana skin for several 100,000 customers who applied the update to their computers. Notes: a banana skin on the ground has long been associated with pratfalls in visual humor, because banana skins are very slippery when trod on, and often lead to a sudden fall. Drive bananas. If you annoy someone or irritate someone greatly, you drive them bananas. I can't wait for the kids to go back to school, because they've been driving me bananas all summer. I've got some really noisy neighbors and they are driving me bananas. See also, go bananas, go nuts. Go bananas. Someone who has become overly excited or crazy has gone bananas.
I hope my readers are going to go bananas over this book.
I remember once at school when I put my stool on the desk at the end of the day and smashed a whole rack of glass jars.
The teacher went absolutely bananas.
See also, drive bananas. Bin counter. The negative term, bin counter, is used to describe a person who is only interested in the financial aspects of something.
Too many governmental bin counters have put budgets ahead of health in the national health system.
It would have been easier to complete the project if the bin counters had not been given so much power.
Notes: bean is a euphemism for money.
Red as a beetroot. Somebody who goes red as a beetroot is showing their embarrassment or nervousness through intense facial blushing.
When I was at school, and had to speak in front of the class, I would always go red as a beetroot. You can rule out a career as a politician if you go red as a beetroot every time you have to say something in public. Notes: beetroot is an intensely red root vegetable.
Brown as a berry. If you've been in the sun for some time and have got a very deep tan, we say that you are as brown as a berry.
Japanese tourists in Seville always shield themselves from the sun.
Apparently, being as brown as a berry in Japan is a sign of being poor. I cycle all summer in Spain in shorts and t-shirt and my arms, legs, and face are brown as a berry, but the rest of me is white. Notes: Geoffrey Chaucer used this idiom twice in his Canterbury Tales, and it seems that the meaning of brown originally meant dark rather than the color. Carrot and stick. To persuade somebody to do something by using both punishment and threats is to use the carrot and stick approach. Workers are motivated more by having their hard work and acknowledged than by any type of carrot and stick approach. Many parents use the carrot and stick approach in trying to control their offspring's behavior, sometimes allowing them an extra 10 minutes on the computer before bedtime, and sometimes threatening to remove the computer altogether. Notes: this idiom comes from the practice of offering a stubborn animal, like a donkey, a carrot to entice it forward, and then hitting it with a stick when it refuses to do so. Carrot top. A person with very ginger hair is sometimes referred to as a carrot top.
As a ginger-haired girl, she had to get used to being called carrot top, or ginger, and actually grew to like the extra attention she received.
There are a lot more carrot tops in Scotland than in the rest of the UK, I think, though I may be wrong. Notes: people with red hair are also often referred to as ginger.
Bite of the cherry. To be given another chance or opportunity is to be given a second bite of the cherry. Remember that you have to do well in the university entrance exam, because you won't get a second bite of the cherry.
A lot of people fail their driving test the first time round, but luckily you can have as many bites of the cherry as you need. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, another bite of slash at the cherry.
Bowl of cherries. To say that life is just a bowl of cherries is to say that your life is for all intents and purposes perfect.
In the 15 years since I moved to Spain, I can honestly say that my life has been a bowl of cherries. My wife left me, I lost my job, and the dog died, in the space of a week.
Oh yes, life is just a bowl of cherries.
Notes: as in the second example of usage, this idiom is often used ironically. Cool as a cucumber. To say that somebody is as cool as a cucumber is to say that they remain calm and collected in even the most stressful or difficult situations. I used to hate attending serious road traffic accidents as a police officer, but I had to appear to be as cool as a cucumber, even when I was quaking inside. During the earthquake, the teacher was as cool as a cucumber as she led her students out into the playground. Notes: cucumbers have long been used in summer sandwiches in Britain as they are always cool and refreshing no matter how hot the weather. Give a fig. If you are not in the least concerned about someone or something, you can say that you don't give a figger. I couldn't give a fig if this book doesn't make much money.
It's been great fun writing it.
Unlike many men, I don't give a fig about cars, and much prefer to ride a bicycle.
Notes: this idiom is usually used in the negative.
Forbidden fruit. Forbidden fruit is something that you have a strong desire for but which you are not able to have because it is illegal or immoral. The fact that, technically, my wife was forbidden fruit because I was her teacher and she was my student, didn't stop me marrying her.
A great many things that were forbidden fruit in the past have, through the erosion of religion, become the norm for many people.
Notes: this idiom is biblical in origin and comes from Genesis 2:16 to 3:19. Fruits of labor. The fruits of your labor are the final products you have produced or the results of your work. It will be nice to hold the printed version of this book in my hands, giving me the opportunity to hold the fruits of my labor. Many people spend their entire lives working towards retirement, when they hope to enjoy the fruits of their labors in the form of a pension. See also, just deserts. Play gooseberry. Somebody who is in the company of a couple engaged in a romantic liaison and who wish to be alone is playing gooseberry.
Come on, John. You have to come to the party, otherwise I'll be left to play gooseberry with Leslie and Simon. Hello, Roy.
Hello, Trish.
Fancy meeting you here. I would join you, but I don't want to play gooseberry. See you later.
Notes: a gooseberry is a yellowy green berry which is rather sour and often turned into jam in the UK. Grapevine. To learn the details of something through an informal channel of communication such as gossip is to hear it on the grapevine.
Trust me when I tell you that Jane is going to get that promotion.
I heard it on the grapevine.
You shouldn't take notice of everything you hear on the grapevine, as much of it is misinformation and rumor.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, through the grapevine. Sour grapes. When you pretend that you don't really want something that you really do want, because you know that you can never have it, we say this is a case of sour grapes. When the office syndicate won a substantial amount of money on the lottery, the boss, who wasn't in the syndicate, had a case of sour grapes and told everyone that he was glad he had not won as the money would just bring them misery. A week ago, he was telling everyone how much he was looking forward to his expected promotion.
Now that he has been passed over, he is telling us that he didn't want the extra responsibility. I'm sure it's just sour grapes.
Notes: the origin of this idiom can be traced back to the fables of Aesop. In one fable, a fox was trying to eat some grapes just out of reach. Unable to reach the grapes, the fox announced that he didn't really want them because they were probably sour anyway.
Lemon. Something you buy which turns out to have defects, problems, or does not work well, is known as a lemon. This car has been to the garage for time since I bought it, and I'm beginning to suspect it's a lemon.
If I was you, I'd ask the dealership for my money back.
That car is obviously a lemon.
Notes: this idiom is usually used for vehicles such as cars or motorcycles. Wet lettuce. A weak person with a weak personality who will never stand up for themselves is known as a wet lettuce.
I don't know what she sees in him. He's a right wet lettuce.
You gave in to your boss and agreed to work overtime at the weekend?
Your wife's going to think you are real wet lettuce.
Notes: this derogatory idiom is generally heard in the north of England.
No onions. Somebody who knows their onions is very knowledgeable and skilled in what they are doing. Are you sure John is the right man for the job?
He doesn't seem to know his onions. That mechanic really knows his onions and turned my lemon of a car into a car to be proud of.
Notes: while a popular idiom in the UK, this idiom originally came from the United States.
Peach. A person described as a peach is a wonderful person with many admirable qualities. Don't worry, Elizabeth will help you to settle in.
She's a real peach. Wow! 2 bottles of wine and a box of chocolates. You're a peach.
Notes: this idiom is usually used to describe people, and rarely, things. Pear-shaped. When something has gone pear-shaped, it has gone badly wrong and is probably going to fail. The plan to arrest the suspect as he boarded the plane went pear-shaped when he spotted some of the undercover officers.
The presentation went pear-shaped when the projector exploded. 2 peas in a pod. 2 people who share the same interests, beliefs, and even appearance, are said to be like 2 peas in a pod.
My brother and I are not like 2 peas in a pod, more like chalk and cheese, really.
She and her grandmother are like 2 peas in a pod, even though there's 60 years between them.
See also, chalk and cheese, apples and oranges. In a pickle. To be in a pickle is to be in a difficult and challenging situation.
Well, you are in a pickle, aren't you?
This is the train to Norwich, not Northwich, and you say your meeting's in an hour? She got herself into a pickle when she agreed to bake enough biscuits for everyone at the meeting. She didn't realize there would be so many people there. Notes: variants of this idiom are, in a right/pretty/bit of a pickle. See also, in a jam. Plum job. A job or assignment that everybody wants but which is very difficult to get is a plum job. 6 months on a tropical island looking after tortoises might sound like a plum job, but not during hurricane season, I can tell you. Her father owns the company, so it was not entirely unexpected when they gave her such a plum job. Couch potato. A couch potato is a lazy, usually fat, person who does little or no exercise, and prefers to slouch all day on the sofa in front of the television.
He spent many years as a couch potato before turning his life around and becoming a professional bodybuilder. Come on, John. You can't sit there like a couch potato all night. Let's go to the gym. Notes: a couch is another word for sofa. Had your chips? If you have had your chips, you are about to suffer the unpleasant consequences for something that you have done.
As I went flying across the road on my motorbike, I felt sure I had had my chips. I have warned you 3 times this month about your timekeeping, and I'm afraid that this time you've had your chips. See also, just deserts. Hot potato. A hot potato is a difficult problem or issue that nobody wants to deal with, and which gets passed from one person to another. The issue of taxation is always a hot potato for any government. Neither the Prime Minister nor the Secretary of State would give a straight answer to the question, as it was considered to be something of a hot potato.
Notes: a potato taken hot from the oven is difficult to hold in your hands for more than a moment.
Small potatoes. Something that is insignificant and hardly worth worrying about is small potatoes.
Selling 1 or 2 books is small potatoes. What I really want is this book to become required reading at university. I once found a Roman coin while out with my metal detector.
I showed it to my friend, who said it was small potatoes, and what I really needed to find was a Saxon hoard. Notes: this is an American or Canadian expression, the equivalent British expression being small fry. See also, small beer. Upset the apple cart. To upset the apple cart is to spoil carefully laid plans, or to ruin a hitherto satisfactory situation. The news that the CEO had been convicted of sexual harassment against an employee really upset the apple cart. When the groom broke both his legs in a motorcycle accident the day before the wedding, he really upset the apple cart. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, to overturn the apple cart. In the kitchen idioms: blow off steam. When you blow off steam, you release your emotions, particularly your anger, often verbally or through sudden and violent physical action. I have to say I have never seen anyone blow off steam by throwing a laptop out of the window before.
Just stand there, let him blow off a bit of steam, and when he simmered down he'll be nice as pie again.
See also, let off steam. Boil down. To reduce a complex issue to its simple fundamentals is to boil it down.
What it boils down to is the question of who's going to pay for it.
The Prime Minister wanted all complex documents boiled down to a single paragraph by his aides. Notes: by evaporating a liquid, by boiling it off, you can concentrate a substance. Boil over. A situation which has reached the point where the participants have erupted into angry confrontation or are showing strong emotions has boiled over. The police were trying hard to keep the two groups of rival supporters apart, as it appeared that the situation was about to boil over. The problem with Christmas is that a lot of family members who haven't seen one another for 12 months are confined to one room for a whole day and, with the aid of alcohol, old wounds are opened, and things can boil over quite rapidly. Notes: a pan of milk boiling over on a stove makes a mess everywhere. Bring to the boil. Bring to the boil can mean to literally bring a liquid to boiling point, but it can also mean to make somebody demonstrably angry. The one thing that is guaranteed to bring me to the boil is aggressive car drivers. He knew, from past experience, that the easiest way to bring her to the boil was to criticize her cooking.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, bring to a boil. Burnt to a crisp. Something which has been badly burned, by fire, by sun, or by other means, is burnt to a crisp.
I'll never forget the Christmas when we spent too long in the pub and got back home to find the turkey burnt to a crisp. I always feel sorry for the tourists who come to Seville, underestimate the strength of the sun, and find themselves burnt to a crisp in one afternoon. Chop chop. The imperative, chop chop, is an informal way of saying move faster, or get a move on. We haven't got all day, people, so chop chop.
The guests will be here in 30 minutes and Tarquin's forgotten the wine.
Run down to the off-license and pick up half a dozen bottles, would you? Chop chop. Notes: this idiom originated from Cantonese and was originally used by English sailors. Chopping block. To be on the chopping block is to be in a dangerous predicament in which someone or something is threatened with elimination.
If we can't turn this situation around soon, all of our heads are on the chopping block.
I'm afraid the project is on the chopping block as far as management is concerned. See also, get the chop. Cook the books. To deliberately and dishonestly alter a company or organization's financial records or accounts is to cook the books. 3 senior executives at one of the country's biggest supermarket chains are in court, accused of cooking the books to secure themselves fat bonuses. I'm not going to cook the books to hide your stupid failures, Michael, so you'd better just simmer down and think how to deal with this like a man.
Notes: this idiom dates from the 17th century.
Cook up a storm. To actively and energetically provoke or incite a situation that has the potential to be very disruptive is to cook up a storm.
The anarchists cooked up a storm when they invaded the conference center.
He's the type of politician who is always trying to cook up a storm, especially on contentious issues.
See also, bring to the boil.
Cooking on gas. When work is progressing rapidly, smoothly, and efficiently, we say that it is cooking on gas. Once the kinks were ironed out and production began in earnest, we were really cooking on gas. Thanks to voice recognition technology, I'm really cooking on gas with these idioms. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, cooking with gas. Done to a T. When food is cooked perfectly and could not conceivably be better, we say that it is done to a T. I always go to Luigi's, because you can guarantee their steaks will be done to a T. That was the most delicious salmon, Mrs. Jackson.
Done to a T as usual.
Get the chop. When the powers that be decide that something is no longer necessary, be it a service, program, or employee, it gets the chop. The village used to have a bus service twice a day, but it got the chop when the bus company decided it wasn't profitable. The job is not skilled, and there are a lot of people unemployed around here, so the workers know they can get the chop at the drop of a hat. Half-baked. Something which has not been well thought out or is doomed to failure is half-baked. She's always approaching me with these half-baked ideas of hers. The idea of electrically powered passenger jet seems a little half-baked to me, but if we look at the recent advances made in drone technology, it might just work.
Notes: food which is only baked for half the required time in the oven would not be edible. Let off steam. When you let off steam, you allow your emotions, particularly anger, to be released verbally, in writing, or in some other way.
He's been under a lot of stress recently, so it's not surprising he let off steam during the meeting. I'm sorry I broke the glass, but I really needed to let off some steam. See also, blow off steam. Make blood boil. To make someone's blood boil is to infuriate or enrage them.
People who spit chewing gum on the floor really make my blood boil.
I've never seen him angry, and I don't think it's possible to make his blood boil. See also, cheese off. On the boil. A situation which is coming to fruition and about which there is much interest and activity, is on the boil. I don't know if Jackie and Charles are planning on getting married, but from what I saw of them last night, their relationship is certainly on the boil.
Yes, the negotiations are still on the boil, and I think we can expect to see contracts exchanged by the middle of next week. See also, bring to the boil.
Pick up steam. To pick up steam is to gradually increase the strength, power, energy, or influence needed to deal with a difficult challenge. The campaign for independence picked up steam much faster than the government would have liked. The economy is unlikely to pick up steam in the next 5 years or so, or at least until we can rebuild manufacturing capacity. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, get up steam. Run out of steam. Something which loses energy, slows down, becomes weaker, and eventually stops, has run out of steam.
I never realized a marathon could be so difficult. I ran out of steam long before the halfway mark and had to bow out.
My horse was leading the field throughout the race until the final few furlongs, when it seemed to run out of steam, eventually coming in last. Notes: the old-style steam locomotives would grind to a halt if they ran out of steam. Simmer down. If, after being extremely agitated or emotional, a person calms down and becomes less excited, we say they have simmered down.
Don't go in to see the boss yet. He needs time to simmer down.
The stewardess asked the man to simmer down and threatened to have him removed from the plane if he failed to do so.
Notes: when the heat is reduced, a pan of boiling water begins to simmer.
Steaming. Anybody who is fuming, furious, extremely upset, or very angry, can be called steaming.
I would avoid him today, if you know what's good for you, as he is steaming about that report you sent him.
From the look of his red face and the expletives he was screaming down the telephone, I'd say he was steaming mad. See also, boil over. What's cooking? An informal way of asking someone what's happening, or what's going on, is what's cooking? Good morning, Joanne. What's cooking? What's cooking, Harry? Out of the frying pan into the fire. Out of the frying pan into the fire means going from one bad situation to another equally bad one, or worse. We moved because of our noisy neighbors, but quickly found that we had jumped out of the frying pan into the fire when they opened a nightclub in the building next to our new house. The burglar ran from the police, jumped over a fence, and landed in a yard containing 2 ferocious dogs. A very satisfying leap out of the frying pan into the fire for everyone concerned, except the burglar. Pot calling kettle black. When someone with a fault accuses another person of having a similar or worse fault, we say it's a case of the pot calling the kettle black. To have a morbidly obese man tell me that I'm greedy because I ate 2 donuts is a bit like the pot calling the kettle black. I looked at her purple hair when she was telling him that he had no dress sense and felt that it was a case of the pot calling the kettle black. Notes: in the past, when cooking was done over an open fire, cooking pots such as pans and kettles were often blackened by the smoke. Silver spoon in mouth. Someone who is born with a silver spoon in their mouth has been born into a wealthy and privileged family and never has to worry about money or earning a living. Most of the students at top public schools have been born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Don't make the mistake of thinking I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth.
I wasn't. I've had to work for everything I own.
Notes: babies born to rich families are likely to be fed with spoons of silver, not stainless steel like the rest of us. See also, upper crust. Cut with a knife. When something normally intangible is very noticeable, such as the air, a person's accent, or the atmosphere in the room, we say that you could cut it with a knife.
There were a lot of people in the room who had been victims of his crimes, and as soon as he walked through the door you could cut the atmosphere with a knife.
I once popped into a little pub in the middle of nowhere for a drink and ended up winning the pub quiz.
The locals were not best pleased, and you could have cut the atmosphere with a knife.
See also, break ice.
Go under the knife. To go under the knife is to undergo some form of surgical procedure in a hospital. If my father hadn't gone under the knife, he might well be alive today.
Why do increasing numbers of young women feel compelled to go under the knife to conform to some artificial standard of beauty imposed on them by the media? Notes: surgeons use scalpels, knives, to perform surgical procedures. Knife edge. When you are very stressed due to the situation you find yourself in, we say you are on a knife edge.
We've all been on a knife edge since we found out that the business was in trouble and may have to close.
With the chubby dictator threatening the USA with nuclear war, you can be sure that all neighboring countries are on a knife edge.
See also, on the boil.
Stick the knife in. To stick the knife in is to do or say something horrible to another person in a horrible way.
Sacking him was one thing, but the way he stuck the knife in was really disgusting. At the divorce hearing, his wife stuck the knife in by telling the judge that he had a problem with drink and was basically an unfit father. See also, twist the knife.
Twist the knife. If you do or say something which makes an already bad situation worse, we say you are twisting the knife. You've already made him feel extremely embarrassed by his mistakes, so there's no need to twist the knife. If it wasn't bad enough being arrested for drink driving, the police really twisted the knife when they charged him for having a bald tire, too. Notes: this idiom can also be used with the verb turn, as in turn the knife. See also, stick the knife in.
Rub salt in the wound.
Enough on plate. When you have more than enough work to do, or have many things to deal with, and are unwilling to take on any more responsibility, we say you have enough on your plate.
Normally I would ask Beatrice to do this, but I'm afraid she's got enough on her plate as it is, so I'm asking you.
Don't you think she's got enough on her plate planning the wedding? It's hardly fair for you to ask her to sort out your suit as well, is it?
See also, too much on plate. Head on plate. To say that you want to punish someone harshly and severely is to say that you want their head on a plate. If you go ahead with your plans for independence, central government will have your head on a plate. When I discover who leaked the information to the press, I'll have their head on a plate.
Notes: this idiom is also heard as head on a platter.
On a silver platter. When something is handed to you on a silver platter, it is given to you without you having to make any effort to get it. No wonder the directorship was handed to him on a silver platter. His father owns the company.
If you expect me to hand the promotion to you on a silver platter just because you are my daughter, you are much mistaken.
This company is a meritocracy. Notes: a platter is a large metal dish used for serving food.
Too much on plate. When someone has too much work to do, or has too many things to deal with, and is unable to cope, we say they have too much on their plate. I'm afraid I won't be able to help you with the project after all, Michael.
I've got too much on my plate as it is. I'm not going to ask Louise to help out with the party this year. What with the new baby and everything else, she's got too much on her plate as it is. See also, enough on plate.
Melting pot. A place where we find people from many divergent backgrounds, cultures, or beliefs, who are all coexisting happily together, is a melting pot. For a country like America, which has always been something of a melting pot, to have become so xenophobic is a sad indictment of modern times.
When I lived in South London, it felt like I was living in a great melting pot of cultures. Notes: a melting pot is a crucible in which pieces of metal can be melted together.
Pot belly. A pot belly is a fat, round stomach caused by excessive eating or drinking and insufficient exercise. That diet is mainly responsible for the current obesity epidemic can be seen by the fact that you will never see a vegan with a pot belly. The fact that she was slim and attractive while her new husband was an old slob with a pot belly was a good indication of his immense wealth. See also, beer gut, beefcake. Potluck. When you take potluck, you take whatever you are fortunate enough to be given.
I really don't mind what music we listen to over dinner. I'm happy to take potluck. There were only a few seats left for the concert, so I didn't get to choose where to sit and had to take potluck.
Notes: this idiom comes from accepting whatever is in the pot when you have been invited to eat with someone.
Throw into the pot. To add your proposal to the others being discussed in a meeting is to throw it into the pot. Having sat there for over an hour, I thought I ought to throw my idea into the pot.
The problem when so many people are throwing ideas into the pot is that it's very hard to separate the wheat from the chaff. Notes: this idiom alludes to the practice of contributing something to a communal cooking pot. See also, wheat from chaff. Greasy spoon. A small restaurant or cafe that sells predominantly fried food at a cheap price is known as a greasy spoon. In my personal experience, police officers tend to eat in greasy spoons, mainly because they are in out-of-the-way places where they won't be disturbed. Yes, I admit their food isn't the most nutritious, but at the greasy spoon the eggs are always done to a T.
Notes: in such cheap restaurants you are likely to find the cutlery is not as clean as you might like.
Spoon out. If you serve food from a container using a spoon, you spoon it out. We popped into a greasy spoon where the cook spooned out the beans to disguise the fact that the bacon was burnt to a crisp. The day before they were rescued, the plane crash survivors had spooned out the last of their meager rations, believing themselves about to die. Spoon-fed. If somebody has been helped too much to the detriment of their learning, understanding, self-reliance, and initiative, they have been spoon-fed.
It would be better if you let your students learn by studying rather than spoon-feeding them the information they need to pass the exam. You can't expect to be spoon-fed your lines off cue cards. You need to memorize the script before you step in front of the cameras. Notes: if you continue to feed a toddler with a spoon, they will never learn how to feed themselves.
Liquids idioms. Beer goggles. Beer goggles refers to the ability of alcohol to make even unattractive people appear attractive when you are drunk. I see you've got your beer goggles on, Charlie. I'm not sure if that was a boy or a girl you were dancing with. If you honestly think that man is attractive, Caroline, then you must be looking at him through beer goggles and you should lay off the sauce.
See also, on the sauce.
Beer gut. A beer gut is a large belly that some men have, which is supposedly caused by drinking too much beer.
When you see an attractive woman with a man who's got a huge beer gut, you have to be sure that she didn't marry him when he looked like that.
I drink beer, but I also do plenty of exercise and eat healthy food, so I don't have a beer gut. Notes: a variant of this idiom is beer belly.
See also, pot belly.
Small beer. Something which is small beer is of less importance than something else, or is of little significance. Compared to what they've had to put up with in the Caribbean this year, our bad weather is small beer.
When you look at what some people are making from the internet, the income from my websites is small beer.
See also, small potatoes. Break ice. Actions performed, or words said which are designed to help people relax and open up in a possibly stressful social situation are intended to break the ice. The boss always did something to make people laugh to break the ice during weekly meetings.
Politics are not the best way to break the ice in any situation.
See also, icebreaker. Cold as ice. A person who is behaving in a very unfriendly way or is very distant emotionally as being as cold as ice.
We used to get on very well, but these days she's as cold as ice whenever she talks to me.
Don't worry, he's as cold as ice with everybody, not just you. See also, Ice Queen. Cut no ice. Something which fails to influence or convince someone cuts no ice. The arguments that the Brexiteers keep spouting cut no ice with me, I'm afraid. Evolutionary theory is unlikely to cut any ice with hardline creationists.
See also, sweet talk.
Ice Queen. A woman seemingly lacking emotion, affection, or empathy, is an ice queen.
The Prime Minister is struggling to shake off the public's perception of her as an ice queen.
She's been behaving like a proper ice queen all evening, giving everybody the cold shoulder. See also, cold fish, cold as ice. Icebreaker. Something which you say or do to break the ice is known as an icebreaker. In most interviews you will be asked a couple of easy questions as icebreakers before the real interview begins. Are young people today so socially inept that they can't initiate a conversation without needing an icebreaker? See also, break ice. Icy stare. When somebody who is angry with somebody else looks at them with cold, emotionless eyes, they give them an icy stare. The bride gave the bridegroom an icy stare when he came out of the bedroom, closely followed by one of the bridesmaids. When I enter the meeting 20 minutes late, I made my apologies, but the boss fixed me with an icy stare. See also, Ice Queen. On ice. To delay taking action on something, or to postpone speaking to someone, is to keep or put things on ice. I'll be keeping my plans for a European cycle tour on ice until I get my pension. The foundations have been laid, but the building of the main structure has been put on ice since the credit crisis hit. On thin ice. To be in a very risky or precarious situation with very little support is to be on thin ice.
If you accuse them of cooking the books, you're going to find yourself on very thin ice.
I mean, where's your evidence? The Prime Minister found himself skating on thin ice when details of his expense claims were made public. Notes: this idiom comes from the danger that comes from standing on thin ice, as it can suddenly break. Tip of iceberg. The small visible part of a larger underlying problem is the tip of the iceberg. Most women who are sexually assaulted fail to report the assault to the police, so the official figures are just the tip of the iceberg. The extreme weather conditions the world has been experiencing of late are just the tip of the iceberg compared with the disasters which await us. Notes: icebergs show only a tiny part of their mass above water. In the soup. If you are in the soup, you are in a great deal of trouble, or in a very bad situation. I spent a great deal of time as a child in the soup with my teachers, so it's really quite bizarre that I myself became a teacher. The banks have got themselves in the soup by issuing too many subprime car loans.
See also, in hot water.
Pea soup. A pea soup is an extremely thick fog in which it is difficult to see your hand in front of your face. There's no way we're going to be able to drive to the coast tonight in this pea souper. Pea soup fogs used to be very common in London before the Clean Air Act was passed in 1956, prompted by the many deaths from the Great Smog in December 1952. Notes: pea soup is a very thick yellowish soup. Soup up. To soup up is to increase the power or performance of something, through modifications, particularly when talking about machines. Why would I want to soup up my motorbike?
It's got more than enough power as it is.
I don't think that adding a few go faster stripes to your car can really be considered to be souping it up. I mean, it's obvious it's going to run out of steam before you reach 50 miles an hour.
See also, run out of steam.
Too many cooks. When we bemoan the fact that too many cooks spoil the broth, we are saying that there are too many people involved in a particular project and that is it being spoiled as a result. I know you'd like the heads of every department to be involved in the planning stages, but I'm putting John solely in charge.
Too many cooks. Things which are designed by a committee rarely work well because too many cooks spoil the broth.
Notes: broth is a thick and wholesome soup. All the tea in China. Not for all the tea in China means not at any price nor by any means of persuasion. I wouldn't stop being an online English teacher for all the tea in China.
The last thing I want is a car.
I wouldn't give up my bicycle for all the tea in China. Notes: this idiom stems from the fact that there is an enormous amount of tea in China. Not cup of tea. Something which is not someone's cup of tea is something which they are not particularly interested in, or something which they would not enjoy being part of. Sharing my day-to-day life with people on social media is certainly not my cup of tea.
No, I'm afraid I won't be at your party.
Social gatherings really aren't my cup of tea. See also, meat and drink. Storm in a teacup. An unimportant or trivial matter that provokes a great deal of concern, anger, or annoyance among people is a storm in a teacup. I don't know why people are getting so upset by one comment that I made.
It's a storm in a teacup.
It's a storm in a teacup and the media will have forgotten all about it by tomorrow. Notes: a variant of this idiom, used in America, is a tempest in a teapot. Make mouth water. When you feel excited at the anticipation of something, we say that it makes your mouth water. The thought of spending the evening with him made her mouth water.
It wasn't the thought of how he could help people as a politician that made his mouth water, but the thought of all the perks he would get.
Notes: this idiom also has a literal meaning, where your mouth literally waters because you are hungry and have been presented with some mouth-watering food.
Wine and dine. To wine and dine someone is to treat them to an extravagant meal, often with a view of bringing them round to your way of thinking.
Doctors are often wined and dined by the drug companies with a view to getting them to prescribe new medications that will be immensely profitable.
I think you'll be happy to work with that company because they love to wine and dine their investors.
See also, butter up, sweet talk. Meat idioms. Bring home the bacon. To earn money to provide yourself and your family with a living is to bring home the bacon. I was a house husband for several years, bringing up my daughter while my wife brought home the bacon. I love the fact that doing something that I love doing brings home the bacon.
See also, bread and butter.
Save bacon. To save someone's bacon is to save them from a difficult or perilous situation.
If the instructor had checked her parachute before she jumped, he might have been able to save her bacon.
He was hit twice in the chest, but his bulletproof vest saved his bacon and the bullets left only bruises. Notes: variants of this idiom are, to save your skin, or to save your neck. Save own bacon. If you save your own bacon, you're doing everything you can to protect yourself while giving no consideration to others.
As soon as he found out there were going to be redundancies, He was in the boss's office trying to save his own bacon. The captain, who should have been last of the ship, disgraced himself by being one of the first in the lifeboats, as he tried to save his own bacon.
Notes: variants of this idiom are, to save your own skin, or to save your own neck.
Beef. A beef is the source of a long-standing conflict between people. What's his beef with the police anyway? He's never actually been in trouble with the law, as far as I know.
If you have a beef with me, I suggest you tell me what I'm supposed to have done wrong. See also, beef about. Beef about. To beef about something is to complain about it.
You're always beefing about your job, so why don't you just get a new one? Don't beef about the weather. It's not going to get any better no matter how much you complain.
See also, beef. Beefcake. A man who has an exceptional physique with highly defined musculature can be called a beefcake.
I'd much rather look at beefcakes than the pot-bellied wimps we have in the office.
He might have been a beefcake when he was younger, but in the past decade or so he's let himself go to seed. See also, go to seed, pot-belly, beer gut. Bone to pick. When you have a bone to pick with someone, you have a disagreement which you need to discuss with them, or you intend to argue with them. What have you done to upset Mary?
She says she has a bone to pick with you.
I'm afraid I've got a bone to pick with you over the way you've been parking your car in my parking space over the last week. See also, beef. Throw a bone. If you try to calm someone down, or to appease them, by doing them a small favor, or by giving them something of little importance, you are throwing them a bone. The management threw the strikers a bone by promising to limit weekend working, something which was not proving very profitable anyway. The minister threw the animal rights lobby a bone by promising to look at introducing a ban on hunting in national parks. Notes: this idiom comes from the practice of throwing bones from the table to the dogs to keep them quiet. Chicken. To be chicken is to be afraid, to lack courage, and to be cowardly in the face of adversity. I'm sorry, Mrs., but your son is far too much of a chicken to make it as a boxer.
I'll show you who's chicken if you dare to come outside and fight.
See also, cowardy custard. Chicken and egg. When we are unable to say which event preceded another event, or which came first, we say it's a chicken and egg situation.
A homeless man cannot get a job because he doesn't have a home, but he can't get a home because it doesn't have a job. It's a classic chicken and egg situation.
We were faced with a chicken and egg situation in that we didn't know whether the software had damaged the hardware, or the hardware had caused a software failure.
Notes: whether the chicken or the egg came first is a philosophical question that has kept philosophers busy for thousands of years.
Chicken feed. An exceedingly low financial remuneration for something is chicken feed. Compared to most professions, an English teacher's salary is chicken feed, but I don't mind because I love my job. 500 euros for a big company like that is chicken feed, but for me it's a huge amount of money. See also, peanuts.
Chicken out. Chickening out of something is losing courage at the last moment and refusing to go ahead with something. He said he was going to go canoeing with us, but he chickened out as soon as he felt how cold the water was.
Come on, Joe.
You can't chicken out now. The girls will be waiting for us at the cinema, and I don't want to play gooseberry. See also, chicken.
Gooseberry. Chickens come home to roost. When you are compelled to face the consequences of something you have previously done, we say your chickens have come home to roost. A friend of mine in the police was so overworked that he falsified some reports. Eventually his chickens came home to roost and he was fired.
More and more people are finding their chickens coming home to roost in the form of long-forgotten comments made on social media.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, hens coming home to roost.
To roost means to settle down for the night.
Don't count chickens. To tell someone not to count their chickens is to tell them not to assume that things will work out as they expect in the future. That startup certainly looks like a good vehicle for investment, but I wouldn't count my chickens if I were you.
Neither would I put all my eggs in one basket. I expect this book to sell well, but I'm not going to count my chickens.
Notes: this idiom comes from the proverb that says it is unwise to count your chickens before they hatch. Headless chicken. Somebody who is dashing around in a panic, unable to decide what to do or what needs to be done, is running around like a headless chicken. As soon as the shooting started, the captain began running around like a headless chicken, inspiring no one. The floodwaters began rising, and the villagers, instead of arranging the sandbags, began running around like headless chickens. Notes: a chicken which has newly lost its head will, apparently, continue to run around for a short time. Spring chicken. When somebody is no longer as young as they used to be and is showing signs of age, we say they are no spring chicken. Even though, at 75, he was no spring chicken, he decided to do a parachute jump.
Unfortunately, he had a heart attack on the way down, and died.
Neither of them were spring chickens, but they managed to get themselves banned from every pub on the island due to their drunken exploits. Notes: this idiom is normally used ironically as, no spring chicken. Chew the fat. To talk in a relaxed and friendly way, to catch up on gossip, or to have a general chat, is to chew the fat. Hi, David.
I haven't seen you in ages. Let's take a coffee and chew the fat. I've got too much on my plate to chew the fat, I'm afraid. I've got a meeting in 10 minutes. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, chew the rag.
See also, too much on plate.
Fat cat. A businessman who is ostentatious and visibly enjoys their wealth and privilege is disparagingly called a fat cat. In my experience, fat cats are literally fat, living as they do off the fat of the land. I don't think many of the working class will shed many tears for the fat cats who are losing their jobs in the city. See also, big fish, big cheese, fat of the land. Fat in the fire. When actions have been done or words have been said that are going to upset people and cause a lot of trouble, we say that the fat is in the fire.
It doesn't matter how many times you deny it, with news of your exploits all over social media, the fat is in the fire.
As soon as his mother opened the letter from the school telling her about his truancy, Billy knew the fat was in the fire. Notes: this is a rather old-fashioned sounding idiom. Fat of the land. To live off the fat of the land is to have a very comfortable life with an abundance of resources without having to make much of an effort to maintain it. Since the financial crisis, many of the poor in society have looked at Europe's royals as unnecessary sponges living off the fat of the land. If you invest in a private pension, you can look forward to a retirement where you can lay back and live off the fat of the land. See also, gravy train. Puppy fat. When young children or babies are a little fat, and the fat is expected to disappear as they get older, we call it puppy fat. In the past, some kids would have puppy fat, but these days it seems as if every other child is clinically obese. She is a tad overweight, but I'm sure it's puppy fat and she'll grow out of it. See also, on a diet. Say boo to a goose. A person who is very shy, nervous in company, or particularly quiet, wouldn't say boo to a goose. I find it hard to believe that he is now a famous actor.
When I knew him at school, he wouldn't say boo to a goose.
Most people who knew him would have thought he wouldn't say boo to a goose, but the new lieutenant proved himself to be fearless in combat. Notes: you don't need to be particularly brave to say boo to a goose, so anybody who lacks the ability to do so must be extremely timid. Goosebumps. When you are afraid, excited, or cold, and the hairs on your skin stand on end producing bumps and giving you a ticklish, prickly feeling, you have goosebumps. Whenever I listen to that Ralph Vaughan Williams symphony, I get goosebumps. I was walking through the cemetery when the air went suddenly cold and I felt like somebody or something was watching me. I got goosebumps all over and ran out of there as fast as my legs could carry me. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, goose pimples. Goose is cooked. Your goose is cooked when something ruins your chances, interferes with your plans or ambitions, or lands you in trouble. I knew, as soon as I arrived at the railway station to find the train had already left, that I would miss the interview and my goose would be cooked with that company forever. Look, officer, I know I was slightly over the speed limit, but I already have 9 points on my license and another 3 means my goose is cooked as far as my driving license goes. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, to cook your goose. Sauce for the goose. People should be treated equally, and what is good for one person should be good for another, so we say, what's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. If the boss can have a few beers over lunch, why can't the rest of the staff?
What's sauce for the goose?
My wife spends money on new clothes every week, so I spend money on computer games.
What's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
A gander is a male goose.
Wild goose chase. When you are tasked to do something which cannot actually be done, or find yourself on a futile pursuit, we say you are on a wild goose chase.
The police were angry at being sent on a wild goose chase, when they discovered that the man they had been looking for had been in the cells all the time.
A friend of ours recommended a restaurant, and we spent a whole afternoon on a wild goose chase, trying to find the place when it had closed some years before. Notes: the first recorded use of this idiom is in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Gravy train. A job or position that provides the recipient with easy money or attractive perks and luxuries is a gravy train. That so many EU politicians are riding the gravy train alienates a lot of less well-off people. The workers went on strike because many of the senior executives were blatantly riding the gravy train. Notes: gravy is a sauce made from the juices that drip from cooking meat. Cold shoulder. If somebody ignores you, makes it obvious they are disinterested in you, or snubs you socially, they are giving you the cold shoulder. I have no idea why Louise has been giving me the cold shoulder all evening, unless it has something to do with my kissing Jane.
Even the people who know him best have been giving him the cold shoulder since the allegations were made public. Notes: shoulder refers to cold cooked meat from the shoulder of the pig.
Ham actor. An actor who overacts to the point of ridiculousness through over-exaggeration is referred to as a ham actor. He used to be a box office hit, but these days very few people want to see such a ham actor on screen. The thing I really love about amateur dramatics is that the more of a ham actor you are, the better people like you. See also, ham up. Ham up. To ham something up is to make it ridiculous by over-exaggeration, and is often applied to actors. Our drama teacher often hammed it up during lessons, causing acute embarrassment for the majority of students.
The new vicar always hams up his Sunday sermon, but the congregation seem to like it as they have doubled in number since he arrived.
See also, ham actor. Ham-fisted. Somebody who lacks dexterity, is clumsy, heavy-handed, or generally inept, is ham-fisted.
The ham-fisted mechanic stripped the threads from the exhaust manifold. Even the most ham-fisted chef ought to be able to produce a reasonable scrambled egg. Notes: if you had hams instead of hands, it would be hard to manipulate things accurately.
See also, butterfingers. Gentle as a lamb. A person who is generally relaxed and friendly, and remains calm in most circumstances, is as gentle as a lamb. He's a giant of a man, and does look rather scary, but he's gentle as a lamb, especially with children. Gentle as a lamb is not something I would use to describe my ex-wife. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, as meek as a lamb. Hung for a sheep as a lamb. If you are going to be severely punished for a small crime, you might as well get the same punishment for a big crime, and we say that you might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. I knew I was going to get into trouble for not going to class on Monday, so I didn't go on Tuesday or Wednesday either.
Might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. Yes, I will have a double whiskey. I'll be in trouble with the wife when she sees I've been drinking anyway, so I might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, to be hanged for a sheep as a lamb.
Innocent as a lamb. Anybody who is guilt-free, naive, or lacking experience of the world, is as innocent as a lamb. Oh yes, this prison is full of inmates who are as innocent as lambs.
She may seem to be as innocent as a lamb, but don't let appearances deceive you.
See also, butter wouldn't melt in mouth. Lamb to the slaughter. A person who fails to see the danger they are in and thus lacks fear or concern for what is about to happen is like a lamb to the slaughter.
The soldiers who fought in World War I are often referred to as lambs to the slaughter, because they were powerless to resist the orders of the generals. I can't believe you let her go into that meeting unprepared like a lamb to the slaughter. Notes: this expression is biblical in origin. Quiet as a lamb. A person who is as quiet as a lamb is extremely quiet, gentle, and laid back.
I was worried the new puppy would annoy the neighbors with its parking, but she turned out to be as quiet as a lamb. The children? Oh, they've been as quiet as lambs all evening reading their books. See also, gentle as a lamb.
2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Something which is done quickly and easily is done in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. No, it won't take a minute.
I'll have your pancakes on your table in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
Can you set the table?
Dinner will be ready in 2 shakes. Notes: this widely used idiom is often shortened to 2 shakes. Tub of lard. An insulting term for a person who is extremely overweight is a tub of lard. She used to be a tub of lard but surprised everyone by losing more than half her body weight and becoming social media slimming star. The last thing you want to sit next to in cattle class on a plane is a tub of lard.
Notes: lard is a soft white fat obtained from pigs.
Easy meat. A person who is an easy target, especially for criticism, for deception, or persuasion, is easy meat.
Of course, she took the blame. She was easy meat considering she was the only woman in the room. If you think he's easy meat, you should think again. He wasn't born yesterday, and he's been in this business longer than the rest of you put together.
Make mincemeat of. To totally defeat someone and to punish them severely is to make mincemeat of them.
I bet they wish they had known he was a contact karate champion before they picked on him. He made mincemeat of them. It was only a charity football match, but the opposing team made mincemeat out of us.
See also, eat for breakfast. Meat and drink. Something is somebody's meat and drink when they find it interesting and enjoyable despite most people feeling quite the opposite. I couldn't stand working with a huge group of screaming kids all day, but it's meat and drink to her. How anyone can find pond sludge interesting is beyond me, but my uncle wrote a famous book about it.
I guess it's meat and drink to him.
See also, cup of tea. Meat of the matter. The meat of the matter is the main focus of the matter at hand, the purpose of a meeting, or the issue under discussion. I know you want to talk about pricing, but we're here to talk about quality control, so let's stick to the meat of the matter. Firstly, I'd like to ask John to outline the meat of the matter, and then we'll all know what we're talking about. One man's meat. Different people like different things, and when one person likes something that another person dislikes, we say that one man's meat is another man's poison.
I don't like romantic comedies, but my wife does. One man's meat.
It's probably a case of one man's meat, but I found the play to be the most boring 2 hours of my life. Notes: this idiom, which is often used as the shortened form of the proverb, one man's meat is another man's poison, dates from Roman times. Mutton dressed as lamb. An older woman past her prime who nevertheless dresses in clothing more suitable for young people is referred to as mutton dressed as lamb. I prefer a woman to dress elegantly and in keeping with her age, rather than to look like mutton dressed as lamb.
I suppose she thinks she looks attractive, but in those clothes, she looks like mutton dressed as lamb.
Notes: mutton is old, tough meat from an old sheep, as opposed to lamb, which is the young animal. Stick to ribs. Any food which is substantial in filling and will keep you going long after you've eaten it, even in cold weather, is said to stick to your ribs.
My grandmother always fed me porridge in winter. She said it would stick to my ribs.
She ate salad in summer, but always ate stodgy food in winter, the sort of food that would stick to her ribs.
In a stew. If you are in a stew, you are in a challenging situation that makes you feel anxious or upset.
Peter was in a bit of a stew when he received a summons from the court over an unpaid parking fine which he had forgotten about. She got in quite a stew when she found out that she only had material enough for one bridesmaid's dress with the wedding only a week away. Notes: stew is a dish of meat and vegetables cooked slowly in a liquid.
See also, in a pickle, in hot water.
Let stew. To let someone stew is to allow them to continue to feel guilty, anxious, or fearful, without trying to make them feel any better.
Oh, just let him stew in his own juices for a while. It serves him right.
I think it's unfair to let her stew when you yourself admit that it wasn't her fault. Notes: stew is a dish of meat and vegetables cooked slowly in a liquid. Cold turkey. Cold turkey is the unpleasant physical effects of suddenly withdrawing from consumption of an addictive substance such as drugs, alcohol, or nicotine. Most people find it very difficult to give up smoking, but George stopped smoking cold turkey 5 years ago and hasn't looked at a cigarette since. She tried to stop cold turkey several times, but the withdrawal symptoms were so bad she was back on the sauce within a day.
See also, hit the sauce, on the sauce.
Talk turkey. Talking turkey is talking about something in a serious way and saying what you mean.
If we are going to get this merger done, all sides need to sit down and talk turkey.
I tried to talk turkey, but she kept changing the subject.
Notes: while heard in Britain, this idiom was originally an American idiom. See also, chew the fat.
Turkey shoot. An unfair fight or contest where one side is much stronger than the other, and the weaker side has no chance of winning, is referred to as a turkey shoot. The Americans expected the war in Vietnam to be something of a turkey shoot, but the enemy proved far more resilient than expected. It was only supposed to be a charity match between a Sunday League team and one in the First Division, but it soon turned into a turkey shoot.
Notes: while heard in Britain, this idiom was originally an American idiom. Nuts, beans, seeds, and legumes. Idioms: full of beans. Someone who is full of beans has a lot of energy and enthusiasm for something, possibly because they have been well rested or well fed. You may be full of beans, but I didn't sleep well last night, so you can go to the gym on your own.
I'm always envious of those who arrive at the office in the morning full of beans, when all I want to do is crawl back into bed. Notes: beans are a good source of energy, so being full of beans is going to mean you are full of energy. Spill the beans. To disclose secret information, reveal the truth about something, or to ruin a surprise by announcing it prematurely, is to spill the beans.
If I find out who spilled the beans about the redundancies, I will have their head on a plate.
Getting the suspects to spill the beans about who was driving was impossible, so they were all charged with the offense.
Notes: spill has the meaning of disclose or reveal. See also, head on plate.
That old chestnut. Something which has been repeated numerous times and has lost its relevance to the point where it has become tedious is an old chestnut. Most people who spout the old chestnut about school being the best years of your life are generally too old to remember just how awful those years were. I don't subscribe to the old chestnut that opposites attract, as me and the wife are like two peas in a pod and have been happily married for over 40 years. Be nuts about. When you are very enthusiastic and excited about something or someone, you are nuts about them.
You can probably tell from this video that I'm nuts about idioms. He was nuts over his grandson and spoiled him rotten.
See also, go bananas. Go nuts. When you go nuts, you become extremely emotionally agitated, angry, excited, or even mentally ill.
You could go nuts just thinking about the number of people on the planet and how they're affecting the environment.
The reason teachers have such long holidays is that they would go nuts if they had to deal with the kids all year round. See also, nutcase. In a nutshell. To explain something very concisely and in very few words is to put it in a nutshell.
The president doesn't have time to read long reports and wants everything in a nutshell.
I love her, and she loves me, so we're getting married.
That's it in a nutshell.
See also, make a meal of. Nutcase. A nutcase is a person who is mentally ill, or who behaves in a way that normal people would not be expected to.
There seem to be more and more nutcases on the roads every day. That's why I don't drive.
My neighbor across the street is a nutcase at the best of times, but when he's had a drink he is certifiable. See also, go nuts. Nuthouse. A psychiatric hospital or insane asylum can be referred to as the nuthouse. If I had spent another year in the classroom with those kids, I would have ended up in the nut house.
Working here can be like working in the nut house. You don't have to be insane to work here, but it does help.
See also, nutcase. Nutter. A person who behaves in a way that suggests that they have some mental health issues is described as a nutter. He was a complete and utter nutter when he got on his motorcycle, so it's no surprise at all that he's been killed on it. I was walking along the road, minding my own business, when this nutter comes up to me and asks if I want to buy some elephant meat. I mean, what the? See also, nutcase. Sledgehammer to crack nut. To use a sledgehammer to crack a nut is to expend a disproportionate amount of energy or resources in trying to solve a minor problem. Even the judge said that the case should never have come to trial, and likened spending £500,000 to prosecute someone for a £100 unpaid fine was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
Before you make your decision, just remember that it doesn't take a sledgehammer to crack a nut.
Tough nut to crack. A person who is hard to get to know or understand, or a situation that is difficult to deal with, is a tough nut to crack. As his wife already had everything that she could possibly want or need, deciding what to buy her for their 50th wedding anniversary was going to be a tough nut to crack.
The mission controllers realized that getting the damaged spacecraft into its planned orbit around Mars was going to be a tough nut to crack.
See also, tough egg to crack. Sow oats. A young man who lives life to the full, engaging in numerous sexual conquests and generally doing many exciting and reckless things is said to be sowing his oats. I have to admit that I sowed my oats more than most as a younger man, but I don't regret a moment of it. The three of them were out sowing their oats last night and find themselves in prison cells this morning. Notes, also heard as sow your wild oats. Peanuts. To pay someone peanuts is to pay them very little money. If we want to attract the best candidates, we're going to have to offer a better salary. After all, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. The job may only pay peanuts, but it's better than being on benefits.
See also, chicken feed.
Go to seed. To go to seed is to begin to look unattractive, unhealthy, or out of condition, due to lack of care and attention. After he turned 40, he really let himself go to seed, developing the biggest beer gut I've ever seen. They've really let their house go to seed since they retired. You'd think they'd at least employ a gardener, or something. See also, beer gut. Seedy. Something which is shabby, unattractive, scruffy, disreputable, or squalid, is seedy. I never liked that part of London as it was too seedy, and these days it's 10 times worse. I had to go into several very seedy houses while I was working as a police officer, and some were so bad you had to wipe your feet on the way out. See also, go to seed. Spaghetti Western. Spaghetti westerns were low-budget films set in the Wild West but filmed in European countries, particularly Italy.
My favorite spaghetti western is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
He has a large collection of spaghetti westerns on DVD.
I'm sure he'll let you borrow a few.
Notes: spaghetti belongs in the grains and pulses category because it is made from wheat, which is a type of grain. Wheat from chaff. To separate the wheat from the chaff is to take that what is valuable from that which is valueless. The whole purpose of asking candidates for their CVs is to separate the wheat from the chaff. Unfortunately, when you have so much choice, such as with online shopping sites, it can be very difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Notes: the chaff is the unwanted, valueless coverings of the wheat grains.
Spices and condiments idioms. Curry favor. When you do things just to please someone else in the hope of getting them to like you or support you in your endeavors is to curry favor with them. I can see now that paying for our Christmas party was just his way of currying favor with the rest of us in the office. The government may have been trying to curry favor with the voters by announcing a decrease in taxation, but it did win them the election. Notes: while curry is a type of spice, this idiom apparently has nothing to do with the spice, curry, and refers instead to type of comb. I decided to include it in this video because most people associate curry with condiments and spices. Ginger group. If, within a large organization or political group, you have a small group which tries to exert undue influence on the other member of the group to get them to accept their ideas, this small group is known as a ginger group.
Within the party was a ginger group devoted to advancing their own leftist agenda.
The ginger group within your party has managed to get its agenda covered by the media at the expense of the message from the mainstream members. Look to laurels. Faced with competition, and in danger of losing your place at the top, you need to look to your laurels. As lead violinist, Dmitri had to constantly look to his laurels as there were many rising stars in the string section ready to take his place. Whenever we have an influx of new designers, the old ones are forced to look to their laurels rather than resting on them. See also, rest on laurels. Rest on laurels. When you are satisfied with your achievements and do not strive to achieve more, you are resting on your laurels. When I finish this book, I shan't rest on my laurels but will immediately begin writing the next book in the series. With the rapid pace of technological advances, a technology company cannot afford to rest on its laurels but needs to be constantly innovating.
Notes: laurel leaves were symbols of victory and high status in ancient times. Roman emperors would wear crowns of laurel.
Cut the mustard. To perform a task in a satisfactory manner, or to be able to do something requiring strength, stamina, and youth, is to cut the mustard. There is a reason that policemen retire at 55 years of age. It's because it's the sort of job where an old person couldn't cut the mustard.
This computer is 5 years old now, and when it comes to this new software it just can't cut the mustard. See also, keen as mustard.
Keen as mustard. Someone who shows extreme enthusiasm for something and is very eager to do it is keen as mustard. I don't know why you're asking Simon to join us, he's not exactly keen as mustard, is he? I didn't think my wife would be up to cycling to Santiago de Compostela, but I was pleasantly surprised to find that she was as keen as mustard.
See also, cut the mustard. Pepper with. To distribute many small things across something is to pepper it with the things.
All of the buildings in the city were peppered with bullet holes after the battle. I woke up this morning and was horrified to discover my beautiful lawn had been peppered with molehills.
Notes: imagine using a pepper grinder on your food.
Salt and pepper. A dark surface intermingled with white, such as the first signs of grey hairs, is sometimes referred to as salt and pepper. The doctor's salt and pepper beard gave him a rather distinguished air. Many women would be horrified to have salt and pepper hair, which is why there are so many hair dyes available for women. See also, pepper with. Rub salt in the wound. If you make an unpleasant or difficult situation worse for another person, you are rubbing salt in the wound. I lost my job, so her telling me she was going to leave me because I couldn't continue to pay for her little luxuries was just rubbing salt in the wound.
He feels bad enough about failing his exams, without you rubbing salt in the wound and telling him he can't go to his friend's birthday party. Notes: if you have ever cut yourself, and then accidentally got salt in the cut, you will know the origin of this idiom.
Take with a pinch of salt. When somebody tells you something that you are extremely doubtful about, and you do not entirely believe them, you take it with a pinch of salt. He is always telling ridiculously fanciful stories about his past that you really need to take everything he says with a pinch of salt.
You ought to take everything that you read in that magazine with a pinch of salt. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, a grain of salt.
Worth salt. Somebody who does their job very capably, and more than gives value for the payment they receive, is worth their salt.
I hope we can persuade him to stay with this company and not take their other job, because he's certainly worth his salt. I'd sack the lot of them, as not one of them is worth his salt.
Notes: in ancient times, salt was so valuable that some workers, particularly soldiers, were paid, at least in part, in salt. The word, salary, actually comes from the Latin for salt. Hit the sauce. To hit the sauce is to drink alcohol, particularly to excess and to the point of drunkenness.
It's been a long time since I last hit the sauce, and I feel much better for it, I can tell you.
Too many young girls these days go out in the evening just to hit the sauce and end up embarrassing themselves in front of everyone.
See also, on the sauce.
On the sauce. Someone who is on the sauce is drinking alcohol, probably to excess. She tells me she hasn't had a drink for weeks, but I can see from her eyes that she is still on the sauce. The best thing I've done in recent years is to come off the sauce, because I've lost a lot of weight and feel so much better in myself.
See also, hit the sauce.
Spice of life. Having lots of interesting experiences in life makes life more worth living, and we say that variety is the spice of life.
No wonder you're bored with your diet, you always eat the same things. Remember that variety is the spice of life.
I have to admit that when I was younger, I had a great many girlfriends, because I felt the variety was the spice of life. Notes: strictly speaking, this idiom is really a cliché formed from a proverb, Variety is the spice of life, but you may encounter it in the form of the spice of life. Spice up. To spice something up is to make it more interesting, lively, or exciting, by adding something not already present. His lectures contained a lot of interesting information, but his delivery was rather flat, and he would have done better to spice it up with a few jokes or anecdotes. They tried to spice up what was essentially a boring computer game with a few extravagant visuals, but the game remained boring nevertheless. Notes: if you add spices to food, they enhance the flavor and make it more interesting. Sweet things idioms. Cookie crumbles. That's the way the cookie crumbles is said when we have no choice but to accept something unpleasant which has happened. I really think that I should have been offered the promotion, not her, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Telling me that that's just the way the cookie crumbles is not going to make me feel any better about it. Notes: this is an American expression.
Cookies are the American word for biscuits. Take the biscuit. That which takes the biscuit is the worst possible example of something which is stupid, annoying, shocking, or bad. The fact that they want you to pay extra to sit next to each other on the plane really takes the biscuit.
A police car parked across two disabled bays. That really takes the biscuit.
Tough cookie. A tough cookie is a person who is very determined, brave, and confident, and who is not easily upset or discouraged. From the look in his eye and his general demeanor, I could tell I was dealing with a tough cookie.
Don't let her small size deceive you.
She really is one tough cookie.
Notes: this is an American expression.
Cookies are the American word for biscuits.
British English does not have the expression tough biscuit, but tough cookie is often heard in movies or found in fiction.
Piece of cake. Something which is a piece of cake is extremely easy and can be achieved without any effort. The maths exam?
It was a piece of cake. I don't know what all the fuss was about. I found getting to the top of the mountain was a piece of cake.
See also, take candy from a baby. Slice of the cake. A share of a finite amount of something, generally money, which is given to a number of participants is a slice of the cake. With an increasing number of people teaching English through YouTube, my slice of the advertising cake has become woefully thin.
If you want a slice of the cake, you're going to have to show us that you've earned it. Notes: in American English, this idiom is a slice of the pie.
Have cake and eat it. When you cannot satisfy two contradictory desires, we say that you can't have your cake and eat it. There's no point going to the gym every day if you're going to drink lots of beer and eat lots of junk food.
You can't have your cake and eat it.
Either knuckle down to your studies and get your degree or treat university like a 3-year-long party.
The choice is yours, but you can't have your cake and eat it. Notes: once you eat your cake, you no longer have it. Icing on the cake. An unexpected enhancement to something already good is the icing on the cake. When he told his new wife, during their honeymoon, that he was actually very wealthy, it was the icing on the cake for her.
The helmet and lock that the dealer gave me when I bought my new motorcycle was the icing on the cake.
Notes: a variant of this idiom is frosting on the cake.
Nutty as a fruitcake. Somebody who is as nutty as a fruitcake behaves as if they were crazy or insane.
My old chemistry teacher was nutty as a fruitcake, and would perform the most outrageous experiments in class.
You only have to look at the way he dresses to know he's as nutty as a fruitcake. See also, nutcase, nutter.
Sell like hot cakes. If something is selling like hot cakes, it is selling extremely well, and everybody wants to buy it.
I expect this book, and the rest in the series, to sell like hot cakes. I think the big tech companies expected smartwatches to sell like hot cakes and were caught off guard when they didn't.
Notes: newly baked, and thus hot, cakes are very popular.
Cowardy custard. A child who is fearful, nervous, or afraid to do new things, will sometimes be called cowardy custard by other children. Cowardy, cowardy custard.
It's only a frog, and it won't bite you.
When I saw the children picking on the new boy and calling him a cowardy custard, I went over to speak to them. Notes: this idiom is generally only heard from the mouths of children, or immature adults. Fudge the issue. To fudge the issue is to avoid facing something or to avoid doing something you should do.
The bin counters have been fudging the issue for weeks, but the auditors will find out the truth behind their figures.
Don't try to fudge the issue.
I need answers now. Notes: fudge is a toffee-like confectionery.
Honey trap. To use an attractive woman to seduce a man to get information from him, or to entrap him, is to use a honey trap. Sometimes, to get the biggest players in the drug world, the police have to use honey traps. He wasn't rich, and he wasn't good looking, so when the beautiful young woman approached him at the bar he suspected that she was a honey trap.
See also, sweet talk.
Get out of a jam. If you have managed to get out of a difficult and bothersome situation, you have managed to get out of a jam. We were in a bit of a pickle when Amy said she couldn't do the catering, but luckily my mum stepped in and got us out of the jam by doing the catering herself. I know it's asking a lot, but if you could work a couple of hours overtime on Saturday, you'd be getting us out of a bit of a jam.
See also, in a jam, in a pickle.
In a jam. If you are in a difficult and bothersome situation, you are in a jam.
I'm not going to be able to do the catering for the party tomorrow.
I know this leaves you in a bit of a jam, but I'm afraid I've broken my wrist. Now we're in a proper jam.
We've missed the last train home, and all the hotels in town are full.
See also, get out of a jam. Jam down throat. To oblige someone to accept something, agree with something, or endure something, is to jam it down their throat. If you continue to try to jam your religious nonsense down our throats, I'm going home. I know that the government is keen to get the legislation passed, but I don't think they need to jam it down our throats on every news broadcast and in every newspaper, do they?
Notes:
A variant of this idiom is, ram down someone's throat. Jam session. A jam session is where several musicians come together in an informal setting to play their instruments together.
His moment of fame had come when he took part in a jam session with a very famous rock and roll band. Never, ever, buy a house next to a recording studio, because jam sessions can go on until the early hours of the morning.
Jam tomorrow. Something delightful which has been promised, but will never be attained, is referred to as jam tomorrow. The great lie of the capitalist system for most people is the promise of jam tomorrow.
In a capitalist society, the majority never see the jam.
Why did I resign? Because of the repeated promises of jam tomorrow, while all the time having to do more work for less pay. See also, pie in the sky. Jam-packed. Something which is jam-packed is full to bursting and can hold no more. Who was that politician who claimed that his train was jam-packed when it was clear from the video there were plenty of empty seats? This video is jam-packed with food idioms. Notes, also written hyphenated as jam-packed. See also, in a jam. Turn to jelly. If you are very nervous or frightened and your legs suddenly become weak and in danger of collapse, we say your legs have turned to jelly. During the fighting, the colonel appeared to be calm, but as soon as he got back to his tent, his legs turned to jelly. The first time I ever stood on stage, I felt my legs turn to jelly and I struggled to say my lines as stage fright overcame me. Notes, jelly is a soft, wobbly, sweet pudding made with gelatin and sugar.
Lolly. Lolly is an informal term for money. I don't have a lot of lolly on me. Can you lend me a few quid?
It's not the sort of job that's going to bring in much lolly, I'm afraid, but it's enough to earn a crust. Notes, a lolly is a children's hard-boiled sweet, or frozen snack, eaten on a stick. Flat as a pancake. Something which is as flat as a pancake is extremely flat, level, and devoid of protuberances. The countryside to the east of Seville is as flat as a pancake, which makes it ideal for cycling.
Why do you always put the bread in the bag first? It'll be as flat as a pancake by the time we get home.
Just desserts. When somebody receives a punishment or award that everybody would consider justified, they receive their just desserts. When the movie mogul was exposed as a sex predator, most people thought he got his just desserts.
The businessman defrauded hundreds of his clients, but got his just desserts when he was sent to prison.
Notes, people believe this idiom uses desserts as the pudding, but it is an old meaning of the word for reward or punishment. See also, fruits of labor, cook the books, bin counter.
Proof of the pudding. The proof of the pudding means that you can only know the true value of something by experiencing it, or by trying it out. I've completely rebuilt the engine, but the proof of the pudding will be if it gets us to London tomorrow.
The proof of the pudding of this idiom's activation pack will be if my students start to feel more confident with idioms. Notes, this idiom is from the proverb, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Keep sweet. If you want to ensure that someone will continue to treat you well, you may do nice things for them to keep them sweet.
My father always tried to keep the dustmen sweet by giving them an envelope of money on Boxing Day. If you keep the landlady sweet, she'll let you have girls in your room after midnight.
See also, butter up. Sugar daddy. An older wealthy man who provides a much younger woman with financial support in return for sexual favors is a sugar daddy. She always made sure that she kept some incriminating evidence about her sugar daddy, just in case he ever decided that he no longer wanted her. She denied that he was ever her sugar daddy and claimed to have been successful through her own abilities, though few believed her. Sweet talk. To flatter someone to convince them or to get your own way is to sweet talk them. A police officer is more likely to give words of warning to a sweet-talking woman than he is to a belligerent man. She always manages to sweet-talk the boss into giving her time off, whereas my requests are always met with an icy stare.
It's sexual discrimination.
See also, butter up.
Sweeten the pill. When you sweeten the pill, you make something unpleasant easier to deal with.
The Chancellor will normally sweeten the pill of tax rises by increasing allowances.
Having had to cancel their trip to the theme park, his mother sweetened the pill by buying him a new computer game. Notes: a variant of this idiom is, sugarcoat the pill.
Sweetener. Money, favors, or perks, given to someone to encourage them to do something, are known as sweeteners. If the police stop us, we give them a little sweetener and they let us get on our way. The car dealership offered him alloy wheels and an upgraded sound system as a sweetener to buying the car.
See also, sweet talk.
Take candy from a baby. Something which is extremely easy is like taking candy from a baby. Anyone who thinks that writing a book is like taking candy from a baby has never written a book. Getting full marks in the exam was like taking candy from a baby.
Notes: this is an American idiom.
Candy is an American English word for sweets.
Piece of cake,